Morning, everybody. The June 22nd, 2021 Committee on Zoning, Landmarks and Building Standards is called to order. Pursuant to applicable law, the chairman has determined that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent. Accordingly, attendance at this meeting will be by remote means only. We will start off with a roll call. Committee members, please unmute yourself, and please note that your yes or present response will be deemed to be a yes vote when this quorum call is used as a reference vote for later items. All right, we'll start with Alderman Hopkins.
Alderman Hopkins present.
Alderman Dowell.
Here.
Alderman Sawyer.
Here.
Alderman Beal. Alderman Lopez.
Originally present, Chairman.
Alderman Moore. Alderman Rodriguez. Mike
Here.
Rodriguez. Alderman Cicho Lopez.
Present.
Alderman Burnett. Alderman or Vice Chair Raboyes.
Present, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Cardona.
Present, Chairman.
Alderman Wagasback.
Present.
Alderman Austin.
Here.
Alderman Villegas. Alderman Riley.
Present.
Alderman Kappelman.
Present.
Alderman Osterman. Alderman Haddon.
Present.
And Chairman Tunney is here. So we have 14 and we do have a quorum. All right. Okay. We'll now move on to the approval of the Rule 45 report containing the minutes of the May 2021 hearings of the Committee on Zoning, Landmark and Building Standards. All members of this committee should have received a copy of these reports electronically. And if hearing no objections, do I have a motion by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum to approve the minutes?
So move, Mr. Chairman, by Alderman Austin.
Alderman Austin makes that motion. Any objections to her motion? Hearing no objections, the reports have been approved. All right. Say it again. Let's see. We have Alderman Smith. You want to be recognized for the quorum?
Yes, Alderman Tunney.
Say it again.
She can't be recognized as quorum, but we will recognize her as president.
Okay, we'll recognize you as present, but you are not a member of the committee, I think.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, wait a second. I want to get Alderman Osterman.
Same thing.
Okay,
15 members now present.
so 15. I don't see any other hands up. Okay.
Did
All
you
right.
get me, Mr. Chairman?
You did not?
That's Alderman Beal.
Yes.
We got.
16 members?
We have you now, sir. All right.
Alderman Burnett is here.
And that is another committee member. Alderman Burnett is recognized.
17?
Now.
Everybody's here.
Where's my script? Okay, great. Okay, so now we're going to move on to hear the items to be deferred. I'll read the ward, the file number, the address, and page number, and take a motion for all at the end. So before we get into the list of deferrals, I want to bring to the committee's attention, because I've been approached by someone wanting to hear something that has not been in front of the Plan Commission. So upon legal counsel, and they're on the call, their statement is that they have not been before the Plan Commission. Procedurally, these items need a recommendation from the Plan Commission before the committee can consider them. So from a process point of view, we can't do a direct up and down that has not been to the Plan Commission. So I know one of our colleagues, I should say, is very opinionated about a particular issue, but I think from a legal point of view, we need to wait until the recommendation or not from the Plan Commission is referred to the City Council on Zoning. With that, before I go into the individual deferrals, I see Committee Member Raymond Lopez. Raymond?
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, members of the committee. I am familiar with the item that we're discussing. It is, I believe, number 20699 in the 41st Ward. And I believe that, forgive me, that's my dog's squeak toy in the background if anyone hears it. I believe that legal counsel has provided us with an explanation of the municipal code, which is Chapter 17, hearing from the Plan Commission. But we've already addressed this issue. We addressed this a few years ago. As a body, we've rejected this plan development, even after the Plan Commission's recommendation back then. So I would respectfully disagree, Chairman, and ask that we act on this now. Because there's nothing in the municipal code that says we have to wait for the recommendation. It merely states that the Plan Commission has to provide us with one.
Okay,
Within
so
7 days of the receipt of the application.
So the application that we all voted on in the last city council is not the application that's in front of us today. So they refiled under a brand new application. And while I don't know the substance of it because it's not been heard by the Plan Commission. I understand it's fairly similar, but it is a brand new application. So from their rights as an applicant, they have a right to be heard and an up-down, again, recommendation from the Planning Commission before we get it. So before that, though, I know Jeff is on the call. Jeff Levine, you want to instruct the committee what your legal recommendation is?
Sure. Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. Jeff Levine with the Law Department. Chairman Tunney, you've essentially stated it correctly. The municipal code does provide for this sequenced process. Moreover, I'm aware of nothing in the municipal code that states that once a matter has been considered, it is forever precluded from being raised at a later date. I think such a rule would be problematic for any piece of legislation because circumstances change. Moreover, I think based on some information I've received from the Department of Planning and Development, there are some changes inherent in the current application, and therefore I think that would further render inapplicable any kind of position that the matter has already been finally determined. So I think what I would say is that I would recommend that the committee adhere to its usual practice that is provided for in the municipal code, which calls for Plan Commission review at this juncture.
And Chairman, that being stated, if I may, then I would make a motion to table this item until the February 2022 meeting of the Zoning Committee, if there's no other questions on this topic.
Jeff, is that motion in order at this point, or is that effectively the same result by not hearing it in a reasonable time?
Well, I would have some concerns about offering legal advice in a public setting. I think from a procedural standpoint, a motion to, I think Alderman Lopez is essentially making a motion to defer or postpone to a time certain, which
Right.
is a legitimate motion. I think that postponing it, seeking to postpone it for several months, I don't know whether as a factual matter that would have the practical effect of rendering it moot or whether it would still be viable. I would say as a general principle, the farther out the motion to defer, the more likely it could create room for argument by the applicant that the city is in effect denying it.
Being a solid motion, I renew my motion if there's no other objections to it.
All right. Do we want to hear, I'm asking you, Raymond, we do have Alderman
defer to-
Napolitano on the call. Will you yield to hear him speak? And I see Alderman
I think
Hopkins.
Alderman Hopkins, yep. I'll hold it until they're finished. but I
Okay,
will-
well, Hopkins is a committee member, and so we'll start with Brian. Brian Hopkins,
It is a debatable motion, so
so we can take a vote on it, is what you're
you
saying.
you can entertain debate on the motion as you're doing.
Okay. Alderman Hopkins, is that hand up or not up?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if a vote is indicated, that's fine. I was going to make a do not pass motion on this, but I will yield on that in the face of legal advice from counsel.
Okay, so then, I'm gonna call my committee members. I know, Anthony, Napolitano, your hand is up, but I'm gonna yield to Brendan as a committee member and Brendan Riley.
Chairman, actually, I'll wait to hear from my colleague Alderman Napolitano. I want to make sure I
Okay.
can hear his thoughts first. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Alderman Napolitano.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I would like to support Ray's motion. And the reason so is in 2017 and 2018, this proposal was brought to planning without a letter of support from me. And it went through planning, and planning referred it to zoning committee. And the zoning committee gratefully observed that the 41st Ward, myself, and our zoning advisory board committee did not support this plan to begin with, and they supported us and they voted it down in 2018. My fear is how this is progressing, that this is just coming back again, and this will happen from time to time to probably all of our wards now when a project is voted down, that it's just going to come back in and try to go past the alderman who actually answers to the constituents on what projects are accepted into the ward. We didn't support it then. We don't support it now. I'm hoping that my colleagues can understand that and that this is the direction that planning could be going in the future, and I hope it's not. And I appreciate your time to let this be heard, Chairman. And I would support Alderman Lopez's motion.
Okay. So Alderman Napolitano, as was stated, I was on Plan Commission during that period, and I've also supported you at Plan Commission, and I've also supported you at zoning. My question to you is, this is a new application, process-wise. I'm sure there was a lot of money invested in behalf of the applicant to prepare for introduction and hopefully referral to the committee. Obviously no one is withdrawing your right to be the representative of your community and to speak out and ultimately entertain a compromise, and if not to support it. And then ultimately the Plan Commission decides whether they're up, down, and support again. So you have two bites at the apple moving forward. I'm concerned, and I'm not the lawyer in the room, but I'm concerned that this is a legal problem if we do not give it some kind of due process. If there's a feeling that May of 22 is still due process, that's going to be up to the applicant. So I just, I know that you have support as your position as the alderman, and I worry just from the legal aspects of this and precedent too. So that's just my two cents worth. If before we get on to Alderman Riley and Alderman Beal, Jeff, was that stated properly on behalf of the chairman, or did I miss something?
No, I think Chairman, you're generally stating it correctly. I would suggest that if the members of the committee wish to engage in a more detailed discussion of legal concerns, that the committee could stand in recess for a short period. I could speak to members individually.
All right. Well, let's see what, we have Alderman Riley up on this.
Thank you, Chairman. I understand what Jeff Levine is saying about process. I had a separate conversation with the Legislative Reference Bureau, and they said it is a bit of a murky area, and so not exactly clear cut per se. And I would agree with Jeff. We probably should discuss all of that publicly. However, this committee has jurisdiction over all zoning matters in the city of Chicago, and members here can make decisions to delay votes, put off items, vote down items. And I understand while this is typically considered to be regular process, it's highly irregular that the developer is taking now a third shot at passing the same project effectively over the objections of the local community and their elected representative on the city council. And for me, that's not a sign of good things to come. They're looking to impose their will upon a community that has spoken loud and clear through their representative, not once, but twice. And here we are a third time. And I do share my colleagues' concerns that, this could be, the new. We're just going to file these applications and try and ram them through. And the fact that the local alderman, the local community was not engaged before this application was filed, I think is indicative of what we can expect from this development. So if Alderman Napolitano wants this deferred, I defer to him. I believe it's his choice, and I wouldn't want someone pushing something through over my objections either, because we're all held accountable by our constituents for these decisions. So that's my 2 cents, and I'll be supporting the motion. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to ask Anthony Beal, Alderman Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have to agree with my colleagues. I think that there is precedence that this was voted down, and even though it is been rewritten, it is the same project. And so we do have precedents that we have voted this particular item down. So therefore, I think we do have legal standings in order to vote it down, and we have that to back it up. Just like Alderman Riley just stated, this is the third time that this project is coming around, and the project is not supported by the community or the alderman then, and it's not supported by it now. So I don't see why we would not have legal standings to take action on this, whether we vote it down or defer it to a time certain. And so I support my colleague on that motion, and I also want to second the motion by Alderman Lopez moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, well, I shouldn't say last but not least, Chairman Wagasbeck, followed by Chairman Osterman.
Thanks, Chairman. I have to agree with my colleagues, and I think Alderman Riley looking at LRB and asking the question there, it does seem pretty murky, and it, I think, tries to do away with procedures and jurisdiction that we've established over decades. But my question for Alderman Lopez, if I could, is just what nexus was there to February 22? And I just didn't know if there was a particular date there that we had missed, or if that was just a date that you had thought was appropriate for this. Because I think some of us on Plan Commission, we do see some things come on pretty quickly, but there's also a time frame there that you can't just jump on the Plan Commission either. So I was just curious as to what the February date was for. And that's all I had.
Just on the question, February 22.
Thank you, Chairman. I chose the February date because Municipal Code Section 17-13-0608 says that if City Council takes no action within 6 months, the matter shall be considered dead. That is 7 months from now. So in effect, it would be
Well,
ending this.
that might
Thank you,
be,
Chairman.
That is the,
that 6-month period might be only action that the plan commission takes that the subsequent city council zoning meeting does not. This upends the process by, in the beginning of aborting it, so to speak. Alderman Osterman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the question, I think the issue pushing this out 6 months, while I think Alderman Lopez says that that's what the code indicates or our rules indicate, I think we may want to entertain doing that shorter. I guess I have a question to this Alderman Napolitano, and if he could, for the members of the committee, give a little bit of a snapshot as to the objections from the community, and does he see this as an option, or does he see room for refinement of the plan that would be acceptable and also create some housing units in this community?
Okay, so I'm going to hear from Anthony Napolitano, and then I'm going to call for a recess. Alderman Napolitano.
Thank you, Chairman. The biggest issue with this too is this is on a commercial business corridor of ours. This is PD is zoned commercial right now. This would set a humongous precedent in that area in changing out PD from commercial to residential in there. Unfortunately, for this project, I'm an alderman that listens to my constituents in the surrounding suburbs that are adamantly against this as well. They'd like to keep the area commercial. We need more jobs. They have thousands and thousands of residential vacancies or apartments, and with a lot of vacancies less than 150 yards to the north of here. So I think what we should be pushing for is this remain commercial, bring more jobs to our city, and not set a precedent in our business corridor over there, turning it all into residential.
Thank you, Anthony. So it is 10:27 on my clock. Let's give it about a 10-minute recess and we'll be back. Thank you. Okay.
you've been waiting.
Oh, is your hand up or are you just blurting it out there? I'm
sorry.
going to call on you, Raymond, to renew your motion. Raymond Lopez.
I'm sorry. Chairman, I renew my motion
And we state.
I second it.
to table this item to the February 2022 meeting of the Committee on
Okay.
Zoning.
All right, that's his motion and seconded by Beal. Any objections to the motion?
I'd like a roll call on that, please.
All right,
Alderman Haddon.
Alderman Haddon is calling for a roll call. All right, so obviously voting in the affirmative would delay this until February of 22, and voting no would be to send it to the Plan Commission upon the deferral of me as chairman. All right. So,
Chairman,
Could you repeat the second part?
all right, Ray, Jeff, do you want to correct my statement or?
yeah, I think the motion is more simply characterized, which is simply that Alderman Lopez is seeking to defer zoning committee consideration of this item until February of 2022.
End of statement. Okay. All right, any questions? All right, we'll start with the roll call. Alderman Hopkins.
I vote aye on the motion to defer.
Alderman Dowell.
Aye.
Alderman Sawyer.
Aye.
Alderman Beal.
Yep.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Moore. Alderman Mike Rodriguez. Alderman Cicho Lopez. Alderman Burnett. Alderman Raboyes.
Aye.
Alderman Cardona.
Aye.
Alderman Wagasback.
Aye.
Alderman Villegas. Alderman Kerry Austin.
Mr. Chairman, is this on Alderman Lopez's motion?
Yes, it is.
Aye.
Thank you. Again, Alderman Villegas. Alderman Riley.
Aye.
Alderman Kappelman.
Aye.
Alderman Osterman. Alderman Haddon.
No.
Chairman Tunney is a no. 11 yeas, 2 nays. This motion to defer is accepted, and we will now move on. Alderman Napolitano, is your hand still up? I think we obviously.
Yes, sorry, Chairman. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to hear this in your committee, and thank you to
All
my
right.
colleagues as well.
Okay, thank you. Now we move back on the agenda items. We still have the defers.
Yep.
Okay, so you want to take out?
It's on the bottom of page 3.
Okay. All right. On page, these are deferred items. On page 4 of the revised agenda and page 10 of the regular agenda in the 24th Ward, file number 20719T1 for the address commonly known as 3232 through 46 West Cermak Road. On page 5 of the revised agenda and 16 of the regular agenda in the 2nd Ward, file number 20696T1 for the address commonly known as 2142 through 2156 North Clybourne. On page 11 of the revised agenda and page 16 of the regular agenda in the 3rd Ward, file number 20723 for the address commonly known as 1338 through 1408 South Wabash Avenue. On page 12 of the revised agenda and on page 22 of the deferred agenda in the 4th Ward, file number 20428 for the property commonly known as Michael Reese Hospital Site. Item is being deferred to a date certain of July 20th of 2021. On page 15 of the revised agenda and page 2 of the regular agenda in the 46th Ward, file number 20698 for the address commonly known as 4600 North Marine Drive. On page 15 of the revised agenda and page 4 of the regular agenda in the 44th Ward, file number 20739 for the address commonly known as 3217 North Southport Avenue. On page 15 of the revised agenda and page 4 of the regular agenda in the 42nd Ward, file number 20703 for the address commonly known as 601 West Monroe. On page 16 of the revised agenda and page 4 of the regular agenda in the 42nd Ward, file number 20701 for the address commonly known as 148 through 158 East Ontario Street. On page 16 of the revised agenda and page 5 of the regular agenda in the 42nd Ward, file number 20727 for the address commonly known as 600 East Grand Avenue. Obviously, we took motion on the 41st Ward, so now we're going to, on page 17 of the revised agenda and page 6 of the regular agenda in the 41st Ward, file number 20700 for the address commonly known as 7400 through 7404 West Talcat Avenue, and also 7401 through 7425 West Everett Avenue. Let's see. On page 17 of the revised agenda and page 8 of the regular agenda in the 28th Ward, file number 20702 for the area bounded by West Congress Parkway, South Loomis Avenue, West Harrison Street, and South Ashland Avenue. Also on page 17 of the revised agenda and page 8 of the regular agenda in the 27th Ward, file number 20707 for the address commonly known as 315 North May Street, also 1112 West Carroll Avenue. On page 18 of the revised agenda and page 8 of the regular agenda in the 27th Ward, file number 20708 for the address commonly known as 1223 through 1245 West Fulton. On page 18 of the revised agenda and page 9 of the regular agenda in the 27th Ward, file number 20712 for the address commonly known as 400 North Elizabeth. On page 18 of the revised agenda and page 10 of the regular agenda in the 27th Ward, file number 20730 for the address commonly known as 901 North Halsted Street. On page 19 of the revised agenda and page 11 of the regular agenda in the 20th Ward, file number 20709 for the address commonly known as 835 through 861 East 63rd Street, also 6301 through 6325 South Maryland Avenue. On page 19 of the revised agenda and page 11 of the regular agenda in the 18th Ward, file number 20710 for the address commonly known as 3100 West 87th Street. I'm sorry, 3100 West 77th Street and 7600 South Kedzie Avenue. On page 19 of the revised agenda and page 13 of the regular agenda in the 11th Ward, file number 20722 for the address commonly known as 3506 through 3520 South Halsted Street. On page 20 of the revised agenda and page 14 of the regular agenda in the 8th Ward, file number 20726 for the area bounded by South Greenwood Avenue, East 76th Street, and East 77th Street. On page 20 of the revised agenda and page 14 of the regular agenda in the 8th Ward, file number 20729 for the address commonly known as 9619 through 9645 South Cottage Grove Avenue. On page 20 of the revised agenda and page 15 of the regular agenda in the 5th Ward, file number 20725 for the area bounded by 77th Street, South Blackstone Avenue, South Chicago Avenue, South Harper Avenue, and South Stony Island Avenue. On page 21 of the revised agenda and page 17 of the regular agenda in the 2nd Ward, file number 20704 for the address commonly known as 1017 through 1039 North LaSalle Street and 125 West Maple Street. On page 21 of the revised agenda and page 17 of the regular agenda in the 2nd Ward, file number 20711 for the address commonly known as 739 through 755 North Wells Street. On page 21 of the revised agenda and page 17 of the regular agenda in the 2nd Ward, file number 20728 for the address commonly known as 1120 through 1130 North State Street. And lastly, on page 22 of the revised agenda and page 18 of the regular agenda in the 1st Ward, file number 207-234. What do we have here?
It is file number 20734.
Okay, so let me repeat. On page 22 of the revised agenda and page 18 of the regular agenda in the 1st Ward, file number 20734 for the address commonly known as 2934 through 2940 West Medill Avenue. All right. Any questions by committee members on those deferrals?
No questions, Chairman. Alderman David Moore present.
Well, first of all, you want to be recognized for the quorum, David?
Yes.
Okay, we'll recognize you for the quorum, and then Alderman Moore makes the motion to defer these previously listed items by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to his motion? Hearing no objections, these items have been deferred. All right, now we'll move on to public comment period. We have 2 speakers signed up for today's hearing, and we will hear from them now. Our first speaker is Susan Bogie.
Thank you, Chairman Tunney and members of the committee for allowing me to speak on behalf of my building and neighborhood regarding 1810 to 1820 North Wells Street. My name is Susan Bogie. I'm president of Williamsburg Gardens Homeowners Association at 200 West Menominee Street. The east side of our building is 1800 to 1806 North Wells. Next door but one is 1810 North Wells. We request a delay in the zoning vote until proper notice is given within the required 250-foot distance. Once again, the notice about this zoning committee meeting has not been received by many residents in the affected area, which is unacceptable. In my building, 10 out of 15 residents did not receive a letter about this meeting. Reminder, there's only one house between us and 1810 North Wells. Zach Bleicher, chair of the Historic District Planning and Zoning Committee of the Old Town Triangle Association, has also asked Alderman Michelle Smith to request a delay of the vote to revise the zoning of 1810 to 1820 North Wells Street. Late aldermanic decisions and confusing communications seem to be a disadvantage to the neighborhood and an advantage to the developer. Alderman Smith has been repeatedly asked to attend a meeting in the neighborhood to explain the proposed zoning changes and answer our questions. Instead, we've received conflicting emails mentioning multiple zoning designations, confusing neighbors still further, going from B13 to B1-1-5, where retail must be on the second floor, then B1-15 to B2-2, which allows apartments on the first floor, now B1-1-1.5 to B2.2 to B1.2. We just can't get a straight answer. As residents in the area, we strongly feel that retail must stay in 1816 to 1820. It helps reduce housing density. It creates a neighborhood with a combination of residential and retail, and it helps reduce our tax base. We also don't understand why a request to change the zoning for 1816 to 1820 is included in this request. 1810 North Wells was declassified over the objections of the neighborhood and should therefore seemingly be the only building affected by a zoning change. There's no obvious reason for 1816 to 1820 North Wells zoning to be changed except for possibly developer greed. One final note, not everyone in the area is a member of the Old Town Triangle Association, so communicating with them only is not communicating with the neighborhood.
Our next speaker, Diane Gonzalez.
Good morning. My name is Diane Gonzalez, and I'm a long-term resident of the Old Town Triangle who resides within 250 feet of this proposed zoning change. I ask you today, as did my colleague and neighbor, to delay this, or if not, I say we should hope that you would deny the zoning change for 1810 to 1820 North Wells. Why would Old Town, who supports downzoning the stable portion, not want this downzoning to include 2 storefront structures to the north? 5 reasons. 1, keeping retail at the ground level is imperative in our neighborhood. The zoning change doesn't require this. 2, a number of property owners within the required 250 feet were not notified by mail. 3, neighbors were told zoning would change from B1-3 to B1-1.5, but the notice that was received stated zoning would change to B2-2. When some sharp owners caught the difference, the alderman was contacted. The alderman sent a corrected letter and apology to some constituents this past Friday about 5 o'clock. On Saturday morning, I was contacted by 3 neighbors who were confused. What if someone hadn't caught this? How did the alderman's office not know what zoning is allowed? I replied that there was an explanatory letter, an apology, and an offer to contact their office. Number 4, the alderman's letter furthered that the developer will maintain existing retail, which, as we said, is important. He also agreed to rezone the property to B1-2 after the project is approved and built. Neighbors felt that's a difficult guarantee. How could this work? Number 5, as a result of the confusion and last-minute discovery, a number of neighbors, including the Neighborhood Historic District Committee Chair, asked for a month's delay to discuss this with the developer and with the alderman. The alderman declined. Now, nearby neighbors and I ask again for a delay, or if not, would you deny this change? We support our alderman to downzone the former stable, but we see no need to change the status of the other two buildings with important street-level storefronts. Commissioners, look out for us, please. This is our neighborhood. We have worked so hard for 40 years plus to maintain. This is not a game of tiddlywinks where we hop about confused about the protocol and the zoning amendment. Thank you.
Comment period. We will now move on to the addendum to the agenda. We have one appointment up today, document number A2021-39, the reappointment of Jolene Saul as a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Jolene is here with us and would like to say a few words. Jolene?
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Tunney and members of the committee. My name is Jolene Saul, and thank you for considering my reappointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I have served on the ZBA since 2019, and during that time, I've enjoyed playing a role in creating vibrant communities and fostering economic development throughout the city. Outside of the ZBA, I am currently a senior vice president for a national developer of affordable and mixed income housing, managing all aspects of the development process. Having worked in both the public and private sectors, I've spent my career working to increase opportunity and access through health policy, economic development, and housing. I look forward to continuing to serve the city as a member of the ZBA, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jolene. And thank you for your 2 years. It's quickly that you have to come in front. So you're filling the unexpired term, I presume.
Correct.
Yeah, all right. Questions by committee members? All right, there are no questions. Can I get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum? A motion on that, please?
So move, Mr. Chairman, Alderman
That
Austin.
is Alderman Austin makes that motion, move to pass. Any objections to her motion? Hearing no objections, your reappointment recommendation will be heard by the City Council tomorrow. And thank you for your service, Jolene. Look forward to working with you, continuing to work with you.
Thank you.
Alderman Villegas.
Thank you, Chairman. I apologize if I had a briefing. Can I be added to the roll, please?
You sure can. You missed some early fireworks, Gil. All right, now we'll move on. Let's see what we're going to move on to. All right, so I'm going to move a little bit out of the order at the request of Chairman Dowell. We have, we think, 3 relatively expedient matters to get through the council as she has an engagement with the mayor. All right, so we're going to move to page 9, bottom of page 9, application number 20714, 3rd Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 21. Common address is 5410 through 5412 South Dearborn Street, and the change request, RS3 residential single unit detached house district to an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district. Let's see, Nick Fatikas or Daniel Box, who's up?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Daniel Box. I'm an attorney with the law offices of Sam Banks, and I'm here today on behalf of the applicant, Center Court Development, LLC. The applicant is the owner of the subject property located at 5410 through 12 South Dearborn Street. The property is currently vacant and unimproved, and the applicant is seeking to permit a new 3-story, 2-unit residential building at the subject property. The proposed building will measure 38 feet in height, and on-site garage parking for 2 cars will be provided at the lot's rear. In order to permit the project, as Mr. Chairman had indicated, the applicant is seeking a zoning change from an RS3 residential single unit detached house district to an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district. We worked with the local community and Alderman Dowell on this project. I believe a letter of support is already on file for this application. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Daniel, we do have a letter on file and support, but I know Alderman Dowell is probably on the call. Would you like to talk about this one, Pat?
Very briefly, Chairman, thank you for the consideration this morning. These 3 are in support of housing that will be built around the excess tennis facility, which is a new facility in my ward. And I support all of the zoning changes you're going to hear this morning.
So what we'll do is, obviously, we have your support for the three of them. You'll only be testifying on this one.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
But you're in support of all three. Okay. So questions from committee members? Hearing no questions, do I have a motion to move do pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
Move do pass, Chairman, Alderman Lopez.
That is Alderman Ray Lopez moves do pass. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. We'll stay with the third ward on the top of page 10. Item number 20715. The ordinance was referred on May 26th of 2021. This common address, 5426 South Dearborn Street. Change request. RS3 residential single unit detached house district to an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district. Daniel?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Once again, Daniel Box, attorney with the law offices of Sam Banks. This is an identical project, so I'll keep it brief. The applicant is once again Center Court Development LLC, who owns the subject property located at 5426 South Dearborn. The property is currently vacant, and the applicant is seeking to permit a new 3-story, 2-unit residential building that will be 38 feet in height with on-site garage parking for 2 cars at the rear of the lot. In order to permit the project, we're seeking a zoning change from an RS3 residential single unit detached house district to an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Daniel. Questions by committee members?
So move.
Well, hearing no questions, Alderman Beal makes a motion to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. And it's actually, I would really like to see a site visited with this complex with the tennis and the surrounding. It seems, I know Alderman Dow was extremely supportive and instrumental in making that happen. So it looks like the contiguous development is a good place to work out and live. So I look forward to going down there and seeing it. So, and then my understanding is, Daniel, I hear there's a rumor out that you're leaving this great city of Chicago, and this might be your last zoning meeting.
That's true. I guess word gets around. Unfortunately, it's bittersweet. I love the city of Chicago, and I love working here at Sam Banks Law. But I am originally from Dallas, so I'll be moving back home to Texas here in the next 8 days.
Well, as somebody who lived in Dallas, you talk too fast for a person from Dallas, so maybe you'll slow down when you get down there. So
I think so.
Good
Y'all
luck to you.
Chicagoans have taught me well. Thank you so much, Alderman.
Okay. Now we're moving, the last item in Alderman Dowell's ward is document number 20692 T1, 3rd Ward, address 3933 through 3935 South Prairie Avenue, in the change request M13 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District to RM5 Residential Multi-Unit District. And we have Walter Freeman on this one. Walter?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record again, I am Walter Freeman. And yes, I'm looking to do a zoning change for a double lot 3933 to 3935 South Prairie from M1-3 to RM-5 for a 2-story, actually is a single unit with a 2-car detached garage.
All right. Walter, there's a couple things. Do we have a substitute on this?
Yes, I
All
submitted.
right, let me start with that. Alderman
Let's
Raboyes.
move that we accept the substitute before us.
So Alderman Raboyes moves to accept the substitute narrative and plans for the type 1 application by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum.
Chairman.
Any objections to that?
Yes.
Alderman Ray Lopez. What's up?
When was the substitute received and distributed to this committee?
I dropped actually the substitute off this morning.
Chairman, this is
This is Anna.
Anna, well, hold on. Let's get the department. Anna, the question from Alderman Lopez was submitted when?
I did receive it this morning. I was notified last night via email that there is a substitute from a 2-unit to single family.
That sounds like what Mr. Freeman has told the committee, but as was written, it's a 2-story, 2-unit residential. So, and that being said, they're obviously making it one building with single family, I should say. And I believe Chairman Dow was acknowledged of that fact.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am aware of this. Mr. Freeman is a longtime resident in the community and is building his home on this property. So I am aware that this is a single family.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to ask Alderman Raboyes moves to accept the substantive narrative and plans for the type 1 application by the same roll call.
So
used. Any objections?
And again, I will be objecting and voting no on accepting the substitute.
Okay, so we have one objector. Any other objectors? Hearing none, the item is the substantive narrative and plans will be in front of us. And Mr. Freeman, I think you want to reiterate the fact that this is a single family home.
Yes, it is a single family home.
All right. All right. So we have the substitute, and are there other questions or comments on the substitute? All right. So if there are no other questions, I need a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Alderman Raboyes makes the motion. Any objections to the motion on this one? Hearing none, the item is passed.
Mr. Chairman, thank you again for your consideration this morning.
Thank you. And just for the record, we're passing this with the substitute narrative and plans. It's early in the meeting. All right. Thank you very much. Good luck to you, Chairman Dow. All right. Okay, now we are going to move top of page 8. We'll, the direct introduction to the committee, amending ordinance S 02020-4101 and 02021-797, modifying the expiration date of a temporary emergency government authorized shelter. I believe it's in the 4th Ward. Yep. All committee members should have received a copy of this ordinance last Friday. And at this time, I would like to take a motion to accept the direct introduction to the committee by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Can I get a
Alderman Lopez?
Alderman Lopez moves that motion. Any objections to the motion? Okay. Hearing none, the direct introduction is in front of us. We have Christine Riley, Director of Homeless Prevention Policy and Planning here from the Department of Family and Support Services to speak on this matter. Christine, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Tunney. Thank you, everyone. Yes, the Department of Family and Support Services is asking for an extension of zoning for Young Women's Leadership Academy in Alderman Sophia King's ward. We have been in close contact and working closely with the Chicago Department of Public Health. And based on their recommendations, we are now entering in a phase where we're bringing our decompressed shelter system back to a new normal, bringing beds back on line. And because of this, we are not able to close the current shelter, Young Women's Leadership Academy, and requesting an extension until August 31st, which will be the final extension for this. We are making plans with CDPH to continue to work with the lead coordinating health agencies who are currently working within Young Women's Leadership Academy, as well as other shelter providers to bring shelter beds back online so that we can move the current women from Young Women's Leadership Academy into those available shelter beds, as well as working with the Expedited Housing Initiative and continuing to house the population there. We have stopped referrals to Young Women's Leadership Academy already. So we did get approval from Alderman King. I believe she's on this committee meeting call, but we are requesting an extension to August 31st. Yes.
I'm going to ask Alderman Sophia King if she would like to say a few words on this, on the project. I know she's been very supportive, and I understand it's a pretty successful project. Alderman King.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Happy to, again, stand in support of this particular project in the ward. You know, during COVID, obviously, there were a lot of folks who were had insecure housing, and this facility really stepped up. I think they've been doing an excellent job of, you know, not only taking in some of our most vulnerable folks, but making sure that they get permanent housing. And so I'm happy to give them more time in order to make sure that they can more effectively support our most vulnerable folks in the city. So happy to stand in support of this again.
Thank you, Alderwoman. I see Alderman Osterman's hand is up. Alderman Osterman.
Thank you, Chairman. Just want to commend Alderwoman King on making this work in her community and really helping the women and families that have been there and working with the neighbors. A point to Ms. Riley is that I really want her department and public health to look at citywide how we move to expand and support more shelters. We're going to have federal money coming through us. There's the potential for evictions that are going to be hitting our city. And now is the time to act, to come up with a more robust shelter system so that we can temporarily house people to get them into permanent housing. That can't wait. So that's going to be an issue that's going to come before your department and public health during the budget. I would just ask you to let the commissioner and get on that now. So, but otherwise, stand in support of this, and motion do pass at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Alderman. I do not see other hands up. So Alderman Osterman makes the motion, move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's see. Now we have document number 02021-2154, the amendment of Municipal Code Titles 4, 7, 13, 14A, 14B, 14R, and 15 regarding technical corrections to the construction-related provisions and the associated correction of the City Council Journal of Proceedings of February 19th of 2020. There is a substitute ordinance for this item. All committee members should have received a copy of the substitute as well as a summary of the changes on Friday. And if there are no objections, do I hear a motion to do pass?
Alderman Hopkins so moves to accept the sub.
Okay. So Alderman Hopkins moves to accept the substitute by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that motion?
Yes, Chairman. Alderman Lopez.
Alderman Lopez is recorded as opposing that. Any others? So with that being said, over the objection of Alderman Lopez, the substitute in front of us. All right. We have Commissioner Baudet to speak on the matter. Commissioner, and my staff phonetically is spelling your name, so I apologize from the past. No problem. I had a laugh about that one. So, can you speak on the changes and the
sure. So
technical corrections? I know that we talked a little about these things, but let's get an overview for the committee members.
Yes, absolutely. So good morning, Chairman Tunney and honorable members of the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. My name is Matt Baudet. I'm the Commissioner for the Department of Buildings. As you're aware, in 2015, DLB launched an initiative to comprehensively modernize the city's building code dating back 70 years. The council modernized the electrical code and conveyance device elevator code in 2018, and 5 new titles to the Chicago construction codes in 2019. DLB at the time also made a commitment to continuously review all building related codes, meet with stakeholders, so the city can maintain clarity and consistency. I'm before you today to ask for your favorable consideration of technical amendment and adjustments to various construction related provisions of the municipal code, addressing a variety of topics, the majority of which are minor updates and some typo corrections. Noteworthy in this ordinance package is the continuation of Mayor Lightfoot's commitment on demolition permit reform, which a proposed code update for the DOB review of the structural aspects of permitting and inspections for demolitions. New provisions for consideration include dividing demolitions into 2 categories, complex demolitions and ordinary demolitions, along with permitting and inspection processings for each type. A complex demolition would include the demolition of a residential building more than 3 stories above grade or exceeding 50 feet in height. A building designed for a non-residential occupancy with more than 2 stories above grade or exceeding 30 feet in height. A structure other than a building exceeding 40 feet in height. A structure with more than 1 basement or foundation greater than 10 feet below grade. A structure with a ground level footprint exceeding 10,000 square feet. A building or structure with a party wall or exterior wall or foundation wall located less than 1 foot from a property line or from another structure that is not being demolished, or any demolition accomplished by the use of a wrecking ball or explosives. Per the ordinance, complex demolitions have the added permit requirements similar to what we typically require for major construction, including the submission of structural condition report of the building or structure and a written report of safety and operational plan. Most important, these demolitions will require multiple inspections throughout the demolition process, depending on the building type, including prior to the start of the demolition. Ordinary demolitions are designated to be, ordinary demolitions are also designated to get final inspections. All these technical corrections reflect the department's commitment to public safety for all Chicago residents in all neighborhoods. Other items in the adjustment include codifying that individual wellness and lactation rooms are not counted on the net floor area. And that would encourage the buildings to use lactation rooms. And also codify that natural light requirements in living and sleeping areas apply to institutional daycare buildings as well. So right now we have it for the regular daycares, which is the young children, but there are institutional daycares with older children that we will put the natural light requirements. And as you discussed throughout the code update, one of the benefits of aligning with the International Building Code is that the IBC is frequently updated to allow us the option to take advantage of new development and technologies. For example, the most recent IBC has a clearer and more uniform definition of atriums, which will provide for greater direction for design professionals. And we are asking to adopt that definition in today's package. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Happy to answer any questions you have. Also on the call with me is First Deputy Commissioner Marlene Hopkins and Managing Deputy Commissioner Grant Ulrich. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have questions from committee members? All right, I don't see any hands up. Can I get a motion to move due pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved.
That's Alderman Raboyes makes that motion. Any objections to his motion? And hearing none, the items are passed as amended. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Let me see. Now we're, let's see. Next up, document number 02021-1882, historical landmark designation for the Morton Salt Company warehouse complex located at 1357 North Elston. Before we get preservation here, let's see, there's a Scribner's error on a supporting document of this ordinance. Specifically, page 7 of the document reading April 1st, 2020, when it should read April 1st, 2021. We do not need a substitute on this item as the error is not on the actual ordinance, but rather on the cover letter of a supporting document. With that wrote into the record, we have Condolin Hahn here from the Historic Preservation Division of the Department of Planning and Development to present this matter.
Thank you, Chairman Tunney. Can you see that PowerPoint?
Yes, and the iconic sign, I can see it.
Yeah, you can recognize it. Great. So thank you very much, Chairman Tunney and Alderman. Again, my name is Condolin Hahn. I'm the project coordinator with the Department of Planning and Development in the Historic Preservation Division. And the Commission on Chicago Landmarks voted to recommend landmark designation of the Morton Salt Company warehouse complex at its April 1st meeting. The complex, completed in 1930 and designed by architecture firm Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White, is one of the most iconic industrial sites along the North Branch of the Chicago River. The purpose-built facility was designed to house the local storage, packaging, and distribution operations of the Morton Salt Company, founded in Chicago in 1848. The complex supported the company's Midwest market for 85 years until its closure in 2015. So the Morton Salt Complex, just a big location here, is located in the Westtown community, sits at the southeast corner of Elston Avenue and Black Hawk Street, and backs directly onto the North Branch of the Chicago River. It is located in the 27th Ward. The planned development application for the project was approved at the Chicago Plan Commission on January 21 of this year. The LLC, which owns the site, represented by Blue Star Properties, is planning the adaptive reuse and renovation of the complex into an entertainment venue with multiple tenants and uses. The developer's consent to landmark designation, and Alderman Burnett has provided a letter of support. This is another rendering of the proposed project compared with the site's historic use at lower left. On behalf of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, we're requesting your support to designate the Morton Salt Company warehouse complex as a Chicago landmark. Tyler Quest, a representative for the owners, is here today if you have any questions for him, and I am also available for questions. Thank you very much.
I believe questions from committee members. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Hahn, this is in the 27th Ward, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And Alderman Burnett, do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, first of all, I'd like to thank the folks from Planning and Landmarks for their work on this, and also the developer for their cooperation with this. We think this is going to be a beautiful development. So happy that they are keeping the Morton Salt sign, and I think the little lady with the umbrella over there. So we really appreciate it. This is going to be a music venue, and it should bring some economic development to the city. We get some out-of-town money coming here. So I think this is exciting. So I support it 100%.
Thank you. Questions, committee members? I see Alderman Villegas has his hand up. Gil?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to congratulate Chairman Burnett on this exciting project, and also making sure that we save this iconic landmark. The fact that that this project is going to be turned into a music venue is just really cool for the city. Going to generate a lot of economic development, and I just wanted to congratulate my colleague.
Thank you, Gil. Alderman Wagasback. Scott, do you want to talk on Morton Salt Auditorium, so to speak? All right. Well,
We
all
can't
right.
hear you, Scott.
All right. Well, my assumption is, because we've talked about this entertainment complex, that he is excited about that, as am I. I don't see any other hands up. All right. Let's see. Can I get a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved by Alderman David Moore.
Alderman David Moore makes the motion. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. All right.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have two landmark fee waivers, which we will hear together. Both are in the 3rd Ward. The first is located at 3324 through 3334 South Prairie Avenue, and the second is at 3118 South Prairie Avenue. Any objection? Do we have questions from committee members? Hearing no questions, can I get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved.
So moved.
Alderman Beal makes the motion. Any objections to his motion?
What is the response, is it?
The orders are passed.
Motion.
All right. Next, we will hear large signs over 100 square feet in area, 24 feet above grade. We will hear them all together. I will read the ward, followed by the address, and take a motion at the end. Starting in the 3rd Ward, 2 signs at 3520 South Indiana. 2 signs in the 14th Ward at 4750 South Archer. In the 25th Ward, 817 West Cermak Road. In the 27th Ward, 2 signs located at 1015 North Halsted Street. In the 28th Ward, 5130 West Jackson Boulevard. In the 28th Ward, 2 signs at 1301 Southwestern. In the 30th Ward, 5400 West Belmont Avenue. In the 33rd Ward, 3204 West Irving Park Road. In the 36th Ward, 2 signs at 6816 West Grand Avenue. In the 42nd Ward, 9 West Washington Street. Also in the 42nd Ward, 2 signs at 625 West Madison Street. And also in the 42nd Ward, 2 signs at 320 South Canal Street. In the 43rd Ward, 2555 North Clark Street. In the 44th Ward, 2844 North Broadway Street. And lastly, in the 48th Ward, 6250 North Sheridan Road. Any questions by committee members? Do I hear a motion to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
Move to pass, Chairman.
That was Alderman Wagasback makes the motion.
Works. Okay, thanks.
And any objections to his motion? Hearing none, these items are passed. The sign orders are passed. All right. Now we'll move on to the regular agenda in an effort to minimize technical difficulties and to ensure the committee meeting runs as smoothly as possible. The typical order in which items will be heard has been updated. Throughout the duration of the virtual Committee on Zoning meetings, items will be grouped together according to witness attorney and will be heard in that order rather than the ward order. And we will start on page 1. Let's see, this is document number A8617, 43rd Ward. Ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. Common address is 1810 through 1820 North Wells Street, and the change request, B13 Neighborhood Shopping District to B22 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. And this is Alderman Michelle Smith's ordinance. And for the benefit of committee members, the public speakers both commented on a number of issues, but they were not in support of it. All right, Alderman Smith.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. To remind the committee, this was on the agenda for last month, but it was discovered that some of the notices were not actually mailed. And so we, with, of course, DPD's support, delayed the matter until this month so the notices could be mailed. And DPD has produced to me the list that was mailed to. They are confident that mailing was in fact accomplished. So this matter is now before the committee. This is a rezoning that is the outcome of a series of negotiations with Landmarks, Department of Planning, and a developer who had a pretty rocky experience as our community did, in a project in Old Town. This is the site of a banquet hall that may be a former florist and banquet hall that some of you may have been to, called A New Leaf. some buildings that were next to it, and a former stable from the late 1800s, which was part of the Landmark District. As part of this, the Landmark Commission approved decommissioning that old stable as a contributing building to the Old Town Triangle, which was a traumatic experience for me in our community. It never happened, and approved an addition to that building, which many, including myself, opposed. As a result of that, I initiated this downzoning, as many aldermen would, in an effort to try to fix the situation as best we could. As a result of that, we reached a compromise, which is supported by the Old Town Triangle Association and by many, many members of the community. It significantly downsizes and changes the look of the addition that is going to be built to the building, preserves all the remaining buildings on site, and preserves retail on the ground floor. So the concern that has come before you, and my residents had some concern about, is that because of the nature of retail today, the retail spaces at the front of this development are being reduced in size to make it more rentable. And there are some apartments in the back of some of the retail space. That raises a concern about what the proper zoning is. The city determined it should be a B2, which allows residential on the ground floor. However, we are all concerned about maintaining that retail on the ground floor. And so the developer has made a promise to us in writing that after certificates of occupancy are entered, that they will move to downzone it so that the rest of the property is preserved. And if they don't do it, of course, as alderman, I can. This is as you know, this is a very common practice in order to, in essence, an agreed nonconformity in order to keep lots the way that they should be. So while I'm happy to answer any questions, I hope that you will support this. This project has been several years in the making, and this will help bring it over the finish line in a way that will protect the community, protect our landmark district, and greatly reduce the impact of a proposed change to our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Any questions for Alderman Smith? Alderman, just a quick question. Obviously, your neighbors in Old Town was very concerned about the retail maintaining there. Obviously, it's a creative use of a very large ground floor space with residential in the back, but for the purposes, what do you estimate would be the retail frontage square footage?
It's in the plans. So each of the storefronts is still about 1,000, well, over 1,000 square feet.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, you have potentially two, so you have 3,000 of commercial, which in a lot of communities, including my own, that's ample enough given the fact of the way retail is reshaping itself. So
that's correct.
All right, other questions? Okay, no more questions. Do I get a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
That is Vice Chair Raboyes makes that motion. Any objections to his motion?
Mr. Chairman, please record me as a no.
All right. Okay, so we have one objection. Anybody else? I see Alderman Cicho Lopez's hand is up. Cicho?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sorry, I had a question. In terms of is this, I just want a question for Alderwoman Smith. Is this this is in a landmark district, right? So my question is around, and I know that we had this conversation on guidelines, right? Has there been progress in terms of the specific guidelines that we have? I know that in Pilsen, that was a very contested issue. So in terms of the guidelines and how the guidelines can be developed, with the neighbors, because I think that's what I think some of the challenges that we see, right? And that's what I think in our community, having these guidelines developed with neighbors and also making sure that they're consistent. So my question is in terms of these guidelines have, far along has gone. And I know this is you know, not citywide, nationwide issue, but how can we work with the neighbors to ensure that there's consistency in these guidelines, or what progress has it been? Because that flexibility can go, you know, both ways.
Both
right?
ways. I completely agree with you, Alderman Cicho Lopez. And I think one thing that what we learned through this experience is that the Old Town Triangle, being one of the first districts ever named in the city, did not benefit from the level of specificity that you can have in districts today. So today, if there's a landmark district, generally there'll be a list of every building poured over by landmarks in which the buildings are designated as contributing or not contributing. It wasn't done that way in the mid 70s when Old Town was designated, which led some room for disputing whether a particular building was contributor or not contributing, even though the neighbors in their great energy actually put some of these buildings and put almost all the buildings on the National Register. So it really was a very technical issue that I think can be avoided in today's landmark designations. In addition, however, because of this situation, there's a project going on, a mutual project with landmarks and with the community to essentially update the district. It hasn't been updated since the 70s. Many, many, many buildings have been restored. Many buildings so therefore they have been restored properly through landmark guidance. And I think that's a very important thing for communities to do, which is to not only designate their districts, but to keep on top of them through a community committee. And, you know, the Old Town Triangle is really a model for the rest of the city and how they are concerned and police the landmark district. So thank you for that question.
Thank you both. Alderman Raboyes renews his motion to move to pass by the same roll call that we used to determine quorum, with the exception of Alderman Hopkins voting no. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no other
Aye.
objections, I'm sorry, hearing no other objections, the item is passed with the note of Alderman Hopkins voting no. All right. Middle of page 1, document number A8642 in the 32nd Ward. Ordinance was referred on April 21st of 2021. Common address is 3232 West Altgeld. Change request, RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to an RS3 residential single-unit detached house district. Alderman Wagasbeck.
Thanks, Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, got that fixed. Yes, this is an aldermanic change. This property was rezoned about 10 years ago in an area that was from the former alderman during pre-redistricting. We are trying to, through just purposes of planning, trying to bring it in compliance with all of the properties around it, which are RS3. And I think there was one letter of objection. The attorney might have sent something in saying that they did have a new development design there, but this was formerly a garden property that the owner had said he no longer wanted the neighborhood garden on there. And with that, we moved to downzone it back to its original zoning to come in compliance. So I would just ask for favorable consideration by my colleagues to put the property back to what it was originally 10 years ago.
Thank you, Alderman. And we have not received any objectors. We actually have one positive response from a resident that was received this morning.
Okay.
Any questions for the Alderman? Hearing none, can I get a motion moved to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved, Alderman Lopez.
Alderman Ray Lopez makes the motion. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. All right, bottom of page 1, document number 20716, 49th Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 21. Common address 7138 North Sheridan Road. Also 1313 West Toohey Avenue. The change request, RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to to a B22 neighborhood mixed-use district. Let's see. John Pekarsky. John or Tom Pekarsky?
Earth to Pekarskis.
Are we ready? Mr. Pekarsky.
I hope they're ready. The 49th Ward never gets to go top of the agenda.
Let's see. He's got a few things. We better. All right, let's go. Can we get technology over there on the Pekarsky firm?
He's not. He's unmuted.
All right, John, you're unmuted, so speak up.
We can come back.
All right, well, we're gonna have to come back for a lot then.
We can hear on the bottom of page 2, a motion to defer. Is one of his items.
Okay. All right, Marie, we'll have to hold for a second, okay? We'll see if we can get into 2021. So, all right, but we do have. We're going to move to page 2 because this is also a Pekarsky application, but it's being deferred by Alderwoman Coleman. So I'll read it into the record. Number 20706, 16th Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 2021. Common address is 2010 through 2012 West 69th Street. And the change request, RS2 Residential Single Unit Detached House District to a B31 Community Shopping District. I would like to get a motion to defer this item by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum.
So moved, Chairman.
That is Alderman Ray Lopez makes that motion. Any objections? Hearing none, the item is deferred. Have we heard, do we have any live stream from the Pekarsky?
In the meantime,
All right.
we should move to the top of page 3.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Top of page 3. Document number 20735 T1, 46th Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 2021. Common address is 4533 through 4535 North Clark Street. Change request C12 Neighborhood Shopping or Neighborhood Commercial District to B23 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. And we have Tyler Manick on the call. Tyler.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tyler Manick of Shane Banks, Kenny and Schwartz. I'm here on behalf of the applicant Honoree Properties to rezone 4533 to 4535 North Clark from a C12 neighborhood commercial district to a B23 neighborhood mixed use district. The applicant proposes to adaptively reuse the existing building as a mixed use building containing approximately 3,400 square feet of ground floor commercial space and 24 dwelling units. The existing building is lot line to lot line, has no parking. This property is a transit served location and no parking will be provided at this development. Prior to filing this application, the applicant met with Alderman Kappelman and engaged in a series of meetings with the relevant community groups, Uptown United, Clark Street Neighbors, and Dover Street Neighbors. Each of the community groups support this project, and Alderman Kappelman was kind enough to give us a letter of support that should be on file. With the support of the Alderman, we respectfully request this committee's favorable recommendation to rezone this property to a B23 zoning district, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. Alderman Kappelman.
Thank you, Chairman Tunney. Tyler Manick said it all very well. So this is great reuse of a building that was vacant, and it will provide much more housing that's desperately needed in the ward. So I ask my colleagues to support this project.
Questions for the Alderman? Hearing none, can I get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum? Alderman Raboyes makes that motion. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. Thank you, James. Let me go back.
Tyler's got one more.
All right, we'll do Tyler, and then we'll see if we can get Mr. Pekarski's back. Middle of page 3. Document number 20736 T1, 25th Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 2021. Common address is 2258 West 21st Street. The change request, B32 Community Shopping District to B23 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. Tyler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Again, my name is Tyler Manick of Shane Banks, Kenny and Schwartz. I'm here on behalf of Pilsen Rentals LLC, Series 17, which owns a subject property at 2258 West 21st Street. The property is currently zoned as a B32 Community Shopping District. The property is improved with a 3-story residential building containing 6 dwelling units. There are 2 parking spaces. It is also a transit served location with close proximity to the Western Avenue bus corridor. One of the units at this property is considered non-conforming, albeit existing there for as long as anyone could remember. The applicant seeks a type 1 zoning map amendment to make all 6 units conforming. No changes are being proposed to the existing building. Prior to filing this application, the owner met with the alderman and his zoning advisory board. After careful consideration of the critical housing this building has provided the community historically and the commitment to affordable rents, the zoning advisory board and the alderman are in support of this application to rezone this property to a B23 neighborhood mixed use district so that the owner may establish this non-conforming unit as a legal conforming unit with the city. With the support of the alderman, I respectfully request this committee's favorable recommendation to rezone this property to a B23 zoning district, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, let's hear from Alderman Cicho Lopez on this application in 25. Cicho?
Thank you, Chairman. We have satisfied the due diligence, working with the zoning advisory board. So we ask my colleagues for a favorable recommendation on this item.
All right, we have Alderman Ray Lopez with his hand up. Raymond?
The other Lopez has a question. Was this purchased recently and that's why they're trying to do this?
No, my client has owned it.
Tyler, just reintroduce yourself and answer the question.
Sorry, for the record, Tyler Manick, attorney for the applicant. My client has owned this for some time. He went into permit to apply for a building permit to do some upkeep, maintenance, and that's when the non-conforming unit was identified to him.
But that non-conforming unit was already in existence when he bought it however many years ago?
Correct.
So however many years ago when he purchased it, would there have been a certificate of zoning, or is that something that was before that time?
They don't have a certificate. The certificate of zoning, I believe, is for 4 units or less. So if you're buying a 6-unit building, you wouldn't get one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. I don't see any other hands up. I need a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum.
So move, Chairman.
Alderman Raymond Lopez makes the motion. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the item's passed. All right, I'm going to try it again. We're going to go back to the 49th Ward on page 1. Let's start. Let's get a test run. Mr. Pekarski, are you there? Mr. Pekarski Jr., are you there?
I nominate Ariel to stand in as Mr. Pekarski.
All right. We heard he was back, but we'll give it a little more time. Okay, we need to move on. And then I'm going to ask my vice chair to take the chair as this item is in the 44th Ward. Ariel, we're on the bottom of page 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Alderman Lopez, for requesting that, but maybe in a few years. Item number, file number 20695 in the 44th Ward. The address commonly known as 1225-35 West on School Street. Change request. Plan development number 1463 to an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district. Our attorney, I believe it's Thomas Moore. Are you on, Tom Moore? All right, he is on.
There you go.
Go ahead, Mr. Moore.
Thank you very much, Mr. Acting Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Tom Moore for the record. This is a 41,000 square foot project that's been a business, a manufacturing business in the 44th Ward for multi-generational for the last
I'm on now.
60 years or so.
I don't know what to say.
Mr. Moore, continue. I hear we finally have resurrected Mr. Pekarski, but we'll wait to get through this application.
Thank you. And so the Blackledge family has, for 2 generations, been an employer and a vibrant member of the community. They, for instance, donated part of their property for the Cubs Park, a public park across the street on School Street. And they finally are at the point where the business was no longer viable at this location. And so they closed their business. They had a buyer who was going to build 28 townhouses, but after a planned development was approved, that buyer backed out and that deal fell apart. So the purpose today is to bring the property back to where it historically has been or is consistent with the surrounding properties. The property does need some environmental work, and the plan, the hope for Plan Now going forward, and which I believe the alderman is insisting upon, is it'll be divided into single family lots. But right now, all we're doing, there is no plan right now. All we're doing is bringing it from the plan development back to an RT4 consistent with the surrounding property. And the alderman is in support of doing this so that the property can be properly developed on a going forward basis after it is environmentally cleaned.
Thank you, Tom Moore. I believe Chairman Tunney would like to speak on the matter before us.
Thank you, Vice Chair. This project has been in the works for a number of years, as Mr. Moore said. Originally, we had approved 28 townhomes a couple of years ago, and the project financially fell through. And so we have a new developer that will actually have less impact than the 28 houses. Where they're committed to building, I think it's 12 single family homes on the site, that 3 on the Melrose and I think 9 on the School Street side, that abuts Margaret Donahue Park, which was an amazing project we worked with the Cubs on, and expanded it by about 33% with the donation of the Craftsman Plating family to make this an even larger and more exciting park. So this is, unfortunately, we're losing a manufacturing site, probably one of the last ones in the 44th Ward, but they have always been a good neighbor, and we want to help them get this back onto the rolls, so to speak, and environmentally cleaned up. And while we haven't necessarily done a second community process, this project is much less intensive than what was previously approved by the Plan Commission. So I'd ask my colleagues to support me on this. This, I think, an exciting single family home development.
Thank you, Chairman Tunney. Are there any questions or any comments by members of the zoning committee? There are no questions. Alderman Villegas makes a motion due pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. All in favor? All opposed? In the opinion of the chairs, the ayes have it.
You're up again, Ariel.
Chairman, do you want to continue in the 44th since we're still there?
Yes, sir.
Okie dokie. All right, our next item on the file is file number 207-20-T1 for the address commonly known as 1138 West Belmont Avenue. The change request is a B3-2 Community Shopping District to a B3-3 Community Shopping District. We still have Attorney Tom Moore to present on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. This is a project to create a mixed-use development with 33 dwelling units, 16 parking spots, and a commercial space on Belmont Avenue. It is a TOD transit-served location and will take certain advantages of the transit-served enhancements. And it's been through an extensive community plan. It started out with 40 units, and the alderman had several meetings. There were several community meetings, and this plan now resulted from that process. I believe the alderman's in support, and we'd ask for your support as well.
Thank you, Council. We have Chairman Tunney to speak on the matter before us.
Thank you, Vice Chair and committee members. You might have seen this just in the last week or so, the closing of the Tannenbaum hardware store. I think they said 78 years of business on Belmont. And this has been a generational business, and they've decided that they don't want to work as hard as their parents and grandparents. Their real estate's probably more valuable than the retail. But that being said, it went through an exhaustive process as a TOD development. The unique thing about this building is there's no alley. There's an alley only on the western portion of it, and the northern portion is right up next to residential. So we work very closely with not only the neighborhood organization, but the immediate neighbors to try to come to some resolution on height and setbacks abutting the residential. We've come to an agreement. It's a smaller plan, but I think it's still a robust plan, and has met with the community support and has my support. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I had an account there when I used to live in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I still do.
Long time ago. Long time ago. Any questions or comments by any members of the zoning committee? If there are no questions, Alderman Burnett makes a motion to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine a quorum. All in favor? All opposed? And opinion chairs, the ayes have it. The item will pass.
All right.
Chairman, I believe there's a sighting of a Pekarsky somewhere, and you might be able to grab him this time.
All right, we're going to try it. Thank you very much. So we're going to go back to page 1. Go back in here. Let's start. Mr. Pekarsky, are you with us?
I am.
Oh. The committee gives you a round of applause. Now let's see if we can get through some of your items, all right?
Okay.
So let me read it into the record again. On page 1, document number 20716, 49th Ward, ordinance was referred on May 26th of 2021. Common address 7138 North Sheridan Road, also 1313 West Toohey Avenue. Change request, RT4, residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to a B22 neighborhood mixed-use district. John, you want to proceed?
Well, I'm very proud to be here for the second time on this particular piece of property. I had the pleasure of zoning it for the purposes of a gas station the first time. It was down zoned for the protection of the community, and now we're up zoning again to be allowed to totally rehab and replace the existing gas station with a new, modern, competitive gas station. For that purpose, we need a rezoning. as well as a lakeshore protection and a special use. So I will ask the alderman to please vote favorably on this matter. You still can't hear me.
No, we can hear you, John. We can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Good.
All right. So you're obviously had a gas station. You're upgrading with a modern day convenience store and gas station. I believe that's the content, and we have Alderman Haddon commenting on this. Maria?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Hi, Mr. Pekarsky. Just want to say that wholeheartedly in support of this project. This has been a good business operating in the 49th Ward for some years. My predecessor downzoned it for whatever reason, and now they're looking to make these renovations. So we've met with Mr. Lacani and Mr. Pekarsky and the Department of Development multiple times. I think worked out a really good plan. That's before the committee today. That will benefit our community. Upgrade the gas station, bring some new environmental green elements into it, and bring a little coffee to the neighborhood as well with the Dunkin' Donuts. So we've been happy to work with them, and this has got my full support, and I hope we'll get the support of our colleagues.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Before we get into committee members, we have Ana Robles. Do you have a comment or question, Ana, on this application in 49?
Yes, Chairman. Ana Robles here at the Department of Planning and Development. I just want to point out that there is a typo in the agenda for B2-2. Should be a B3-2, which is in the public notice letter and the ordinance page.
So repeat that so we can get that through the committee.
The agenda and the application called out a B2-2. However, the correction is a B3-2, which was posted in the public notice letter and the ordinance page.
Okay, it sounds reasonable, but Alderwoman Haddon, you're comfortable with that, correct?
Yes. Yep. Thank you for catching that, Ana.
Okay. All right. So do we need to amend it?
No, it's just wrong on the application, but it's correct on the ordinance.
Okay, so the ordinance is correct. We will not need to get a substitute. All right. So with that clarified, get a motion to move to pass by the same
So
roll call.
moved, Mr. Chairman.
That is Vice Chair Raboyes makes the motion. Move do pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the item's passed. Mr. Pekarsky, you still with us?
I am.
All right. I love your enthusiasm. We're going to move on to page 2. Item number 20717, 34th Ward. Ordinance referred to on May 26th of 2021. Common address is 1 through 13 West 103rd Street. So I would assume that's 103rd and State. Change request, B11 Neighborhood Shopping District to a C21 Motor Vehicle Related Commercial District. Mr. Pekarsky.
This is the southwest corner of 103rd Street and State. We are seeking to put a new gas station at this location. We have the support of Alderman Austin. I believe Alderman Austin might even still be on the meeting. This will be a significant improvement as a gas station and a mini mart, which is desperately needed as a convenience store.
All right. First of all, we're going to hear from Alderwoman Carrie Austin. It's in the 34th Ward. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Pekarsky. You're absolutely right. It will be an added resource to that end of the ward where there haven't been any activities on the west side of 103rd and State Street. And we're hoping that this venue will be one that the community will be able to enjoy, even though that there are other gas stations in the vicinity. we're hoping that this one will bring a better light than the other ones have done throughout the years that have passed. You can start out a good owner, and then somehow or another you turn. But we're hoping that this doesn't happen with ours, and maybe it will bring some light to the other side as well, which is on the 9th Ward side. And I don't believe in sides like that when we border by a street, because it's about the community, not about a side of the ward. But I'm hoping that my colleagues will give a favorable recommendations for this particular site.
Thank you, Alderwoman. I see Alderman Beal has his hand up. Alderman Beal.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have some reservations as it relates to this zoning change, and I articulated some of those reservations to Alderman Austin this morning. The four corners of 103rd and State Street, 3 of the corners are in the 9th Ward, and that one corner that the proposed gas station is in the 34th Ward. And I've actually pulled some data as it relates to a half a mile radius of 103rd and State Street from the police department. And we have 41 registered gun offenders in that half mile radius. Since 2019, we have shut down 3 stores just to the north of this particular gas station. And since 2019, there has been a decrease in shot spotter alerts and shootings in that particular area. After those businesses have been closed in that immediate area, were shut down in 2019, there were over, I'm trying to get my numbers right. Well, let me just back up. Let me back up to my January through June 21st and June 21st through December 31st numbers. In 2016, in that half mile radius, we had 9 homicides in 2016. And also in 2017, there were a total of 5 homicides in that half mile radius. In 2018, there were 11 homicides in that particular area. And since those 3 stores have been closed down, in 2019, we have had 5 homicides. In 2020, there were 3 homicides. And so far this year, there have only been 1 homicide. So we have a downward trend in that particular area as far as homicides, because we were able to attribute some resources to close those 3 stores down. Let me also give you some calls for service in that particular area from January to June. Let's go to 2017. There was 2,700 calls for service in that half mile radius. In 2018, there were another 2,700 calls in that particular area. In 2019, there were 2,800 calls in that particular area. 2020, 3,400 calls for service. And in 2021, there was 3,100 calls for service. And again, that's only from January to June 21st. Now, from June 21st to December 31st in that particular area, we had 2,600 calls for service. In 2016, 2017, 3,200 calls for service. In 2018, 3,300 calls for service. In 2019, 4,100 calls for service. In 2020, there were 3,900 calls for service. So it just goes to show that we have problems in that area, Mr. Chairman. And that is also the area in which I'm trying to locate my cop house because of the data attributed to that particular area. So, I really just implore my colleague to rethink this particular zoning change to put a gas station there. There's a gas station just a few blocks to the west. And, there's another couple of gas stations a few blocks to the south. And it's just adding more problems to the area with adding a gas station. I don't think is a very good idea at this particular time. And if you all remember, just a few months ago, we had an 11-year-old that was shot and killed at a gas station on 127th Street. And I believe this is the same owner that is trying to put this gas station on 103rd. And so I just want this committee to rethink this. Maybe we need to just put a pause. And I just implore on my colleague, Alderman Austin, to hit the pause button on this and pull it back. And let's rethink putting a gas station at this area. And so the police department is not in favor of it because they don't have the resources and they know that this will be a problem as well. So I just implore my colleague to pull it back.
Thank you, Alderman. I know we've heard from Alderman Kerry Austin. We have a letter of support.
But you're gonna hear from me again.
I knew that you wouldn't be silent on it, but I didn't see your hand up. But I don't need to see a hand up when I'm hearing your voice. Kerry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To my colleague, Alderman Bill, yes, he did speak to me very briefly in regards to this item this morning. I'm just saddened that you have not found an opportunity to talk to me before now, because I don't try to hide any projects that I try to bring to the ward. But it just behooves me that you want to speak on the item that I'm bringing on a corner that has had nothing on it, but you didn't have an opportunity to speak to me when you brought all of the projects on your side. As I said, I don't believe in a your side or my side. I believe that it's one street. But when you did the project on 103rd and Whitworth, you didn't speak to me at all. And any projects that you have on your side, you never speak to me in regards to it. I don't think that I would hide anything from you or whatever it is that I'm doing. But with all of the data that you just spoke of, the police department haven't spoken to me, and it's on my side, my project. But even with that, with all of the data that you just spoke of, here it is, an individual still would like to anchor in our ward. And I think that it should not be held up just because of the data that you just spoke of, because there's violence everywhere, not just on that end, but all over the far south side and the city of Chicago. And I hope that my colleagues will take my advice and pass this.
Thank you, Alderwoman. And I don't see any other hands up. So I'm going to ask for a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum.
Roll call, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Alderman Beal has asked for a roll call. So obviously a voting yes is supporting Alderwoman Austin in her ward on the gas station, and voting no would be to not support it. And that being said, we're going to start with the roll call. All right. Alderman Hopkins.
Alderman Hopkins votes aye.
Alderman Dowell. Alderman Sawyer. Alderman Beal.
No.
Alderman Raymond Lopez. Raymond? All right. Alderman David Moore. Alderman Mike Rodriguez. Alderman Cicho Lopez. All right. Alderman Burnett.
Aye.
Alderman Raboyes.
Chairman, with all due respect to my colleague in the 9th Ward, I also have to respect my colleague in the 34th. I vote yes.
Alderman Cardona. Alderman Wagasback. Alderman Austin, I believe is a yes. Carrie?
Chairman.
Aye.
Okay. Who is speaking besides Carrie Austin?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's the...
Oh. All right, so Carrie is an aye. Alderman Villegas. Alderman Riley. Alderman Kappelman.
Aye.
Alderman Osterman. Alderman Haddon.
Aye. And Chair, quick note, Alderman Wagaspack unmuted.
All right, I'll get.
I know I didn't hear, but I did see you unmute, Alderman Wagaspack.
All right, let me go back to Alderman Wagaspack. All right, I don't hear from Alderman Wagaspack.
Oh, he showed a thumbs
Oh,
up.
he's
but
got
yeah,
a thumbs up.
sorry, Scott, we can't hear you.
Okay, we got to accept that. It sounds like a Bakarsky moment, actually. So, yeah.
Alderman Riley votes aye, sorry.
All right, Riley is aye. Wagasback is aye. Anybody else?
Alderman Cardona, aye.
All right, Chairman Tunney is an aye. Are we missing anybody? Last call. All right, my records show 11 in the affirmative and 1 in the negative.
Quorum call.
I'm sorry,
Calling for a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
we have a quorum, I believe. 11 to 1. So we have 11 members
11.
on the roll call. All right, so the item is passed. Thank you. All right, moving on to middle of page.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Good luck. Let's see, middle of page 2. Item number 20705, 29th Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 21. Common address 6603 West Fullerton Avenue, M11, or change request, M11 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District to M22 Light Industry District. John Pekarsky.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the purposes of this particular rezoning, we are seeking to erect a 1- and 2-story building containing 57,605 square feet for the use of repair, servicing, storage, indoor and outdoor sales of automobiles. This is the future site of the repair service for the Mazda dealership owned by the McGrath family. I would respectfully request that this be granted. It's from an M11 to an M22.
Let's go. All right. This item is in the 29th Ward, and I believe we do have a letter from Chairman Talafiero. He's not on the call, correct?
Correct.
No. Okay. So, letter of support from the Alderman. Any questions from committee members? Hearing none. Okay, get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum.
So move, Alderman Cardona.
Alderman Cardona makes that motion. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, this item is passed. All right.
Middle of page 4.
Now we're moving on to middle of page 4. This is document number 20669 in the 40th Ward. Ordinance was referred on April 21st of 21. Common address 4937 through 4939 North Damon Avenue, and the change request. B32 Community Shopping District to B33 Community Shopping District. Mr. Moore, Tom Moore.
You unmute me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you
We're
very
on the North Damon application in the 40th Ward.
Thank you very much. This is a application. Currently there is an old laundromat, a 1-story laundromat. Originally, the developer was going to put 9 units, but after going through the community process with Alderman Vasquez, they moved it to 12 units to include an affordable unit on site. And as I say, it went through a community process. We have a letter of support from Alderman Vasquez, and we request your support as well.
All right. Mr. Moore, I think our office, do we have a letter?
Can you just re-forward the email?
Can you send the email in regards to Alderman Vasquez, please?
Yeah, sure.
The letter of support.
Yeah. I have it here. Do you want me to,
For the camera, and then I'll get it later.
All right, put it on the screen for a second. Nicole thinks this is the legit. How about his signature? All right, I see the letter. Okay.
And I will, as soon as I have one more case, as soon as I'm done with that, I will email
I
it.
found it. I found it, Tom. I apologize.
Okay. Nicole has it now, not just the Photoshop of it. We have it. All right. All righty. Questions? We have the letter of support from Alderman Vasquez on this item. Questions from committee members? No questions. Can I get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
Alderwoman Haddon.
Alderwoman Haddon makes that motion. Any objections to her motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. All right, and let's see. The one on Cermak, we're deferring. All right, so now we're on the top of page 5. Document number 20721, 13th Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 2021. Common address, 6339 South Central Avenue. And the change request, B11 Neighborhood Shopping District to C12 Neighborhood Commercial District. All right, Mr. Moore, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is interesting. This is a longstanding restaurant, second generation, running it at this location. And they've always done catering out of the back door, kind of. But during COVID, they kind of reinvented themselves and they started manufacturing, if you will, meals for seniors on a large scale all over the south suburbs, and also meals for used in the air business in Midway, particularly for the private planes out of the back of Midway. And so the purpose of this rezoning is they're going to make that meal production business on their second floor kind of maybe even a bigger business than their original restaurant business. And so we sent out notice and we've had discussions with Alderman Quinn, and we have a letter of support from Alderman Quinn, who has been familiar with this family and business for a long time, and we'd request your support as well.
And we do have a letter of support from Alderman Quinn. Questions from committee members? Tom, as a restaurateur myself, what is the name of the restaurant company? Is it George's?
Yes. It's George's Catering is the applicant. It's the George's family.
Yeah.
The son, the operator, calls himself Buzz.
All right. Well, he's got a lot of buzz going on if he's expanding the business that way. So good luck to him. Other questions or comments? All right. Again, we do have a letter of support from Alderman Quinn. Can I get a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So move, Alderman Cardona.
Alderman Cardona makes that motion. Any objection to his motion?
No.
That sounds like an approval from my vice chair. Hearing no objections, the item is passed. All right.
Thank you very much.
Next, middle of page 5, document number 20697, 47th Ward, or I'm sorry, 41st Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 21. Common address is 5600 North Harlem Avenue. And the change request from an RS2 residential single unit detached house district to a B31 community shopping district. We've received a couple of oppositions, maybe 20. And this is a proposed Starbucks, I presume, with drive-through.
And a petition as well.
And a
survey.
Okay.
That's correct, Chairman.
All right. So we're going to get to Paul Kolpak to speak on it. I think Alderman Napolitano is on the call also. All right. Paul?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Paul Kolpak. With offices of 6767 North Milwaukee Avenue. I represent the applicant, Mr. Jerry Cairo. The property in question is currently zoned RS2, proposed zoning to that of B31, and it is for a Starbucks restaurant. This property is currently vacant. It has been vacant for at least 30 years. The property is 28,425 square feet. We started this property, maybe 7 or 8 months ago. originally had Starbucks submit a proposed design to both CDOT and IDOT because they're both involved in this. We incorporated their comments into our plan. We originally had one meeting with the 41st Ward Advisory Council. They then asked us to go back to Starbucks to redo the plan, which we did. Starbucks, actually, this plan that's that was presented was a prototype plan, first one of this type of design in the city of Chicago. Essentially, the changes were to alleviate some of the congestion to the drive-through. They also incorporated, you could go on your app and order your coffee. They would come out, you would then not go through the drive-through area. You'd park, they would bring your order to you at your parking spaces, or you could pull up adjacent to the property and go to a window where they could serve you there. And of course, lastly, and this was a kind of a requisite from the community and from the 41st Advisory Board, to have this as a sit-down restaurant. We had the second meeting with the advisory board. We did get a favorable vote from that body, and we believe we have support there's a letter of support from Alderman Napolitano. I'm prepared to answer any questions that anyone has.
All right. I know the Alderman would like to speak on this, but for the record, we have received his letter of support. Alderman Napolitano.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry for the delay on that. Yes, just like Mr. Kolpak had stated, this has gone in front of our zoning advisory committee. This lot has actually been vacant for a lot longer. I've been here since 1974, and I believe that lot has been vacant for just as long. After going through our advisory committee multiple times, the community groups have come out in support of it, and the advisory committee had voted in favor of it as well. I too support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Any questions or comments on this item from committee members?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All right. That wasn't a question, but that was a recommendation to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum by Alderman
Move to pass.
All right, that's a lot of recommendations. So we got Raboyes and Scott on that one. Any objections to the motion? Objections? Hearing none, the item's passed. All right. Thank you. Alderman. Yeah, and thank you, Paul. All right. Great. We're going to move. I'm sorry. Who is that?
Alderman David Moore.
Hi, David. What's up?
Make it start. Okay. It was a roll call for which item? I'm sorry.
No, roll call was again in the 34th Ward, about 7 or 8 applications previously. This was not a call for a roll call.
Okay, I thought you was calling roll. All right.
No, sir. Okay. All right, that was the issue in the 34th Ward with the gas station. So, and it did pass on a roll call vote. All right. So now we are on the top of page 6. Correct? Okay. Document number 20738, 36th Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 21. Change request, RS3 Residential Single Unit Detached House District to M11 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District. We have Mark Kupiec or Agnes Pleka.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
We can. Proceed.
My name is Agnes Pleka. I'm an attorney with Law Office of Mark Kupiec and Associates, located at 77 West Washington, Chicago. And I am here on behalf of the applicant, 2101 and Monitor LLC, which is the owner of the subject property at 2101 North Monitor Avenue. And the applicant is requesting a zoning change from an RS3 residential single unit detached house district to an M1-1 limited manufacturing business park district. And this subject property is improved with an existing legal non-conforming 1-story commercial building, approximately 5,000 square feet of commercial space. And that building had been previously used for a manufacturing use. As a matter of fact, manufacturing of custom textile trims. Since the previous business license expired and had been issued more than 18 months ago, this zoning change is needed so that the applicant can obtain a new business license and restart its operation. We have been working with Alderman Villegas to explain this project and unique circumstances. And I did submit Alderman's letter, although I believe Alderman Villegas is still on the call if he would like to speak on this matter. And we do ask for your support for the zoning.
Thank you, Agnes. Alderman Villegas, you want to comment on the Monitor Avenue?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I did submit a letter. This is a simple change and just look for the committee's support. Thank you.
Thank you. And it sounded like to me is that the license lapsed, but the use is the same?
That's correct, Alderman. And actually the building is already set up for the manufacturing use. All the equipment is in place. So the only thing.
Same owners? Same owners?
Can you hear me?
Agnes,
Yeah?
same owners?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, can I get a motion moved to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So move, Alderman Cardona.
So move.
Alderman Cardona moves to pass. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. All right, we're on the middle of page 6. I'm going to need a motion to defer this item, but let me read it into the record. It's item number 20733, 27th Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 2021. Common address 2029 West Washington Boulevard. The change request RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to an RM 4.5 residential multi-unit district. And I believe this deferral is for the attorney. Agnes, is that correct? You need to unmute yourself, Agnes. Agnes, you want to
hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Yes, yes, Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Okay, so the attorney asked for the deferral. Can I get a motion to defer by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum? Alderman Villegas moves that motion. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the item is deferred. Now we're on the bottom of page 6. Document number 20731 in the 11th Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 2021. Common address is 2017 South Rubel Street. And the change request, RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to an RM 4.5 residential multi-unit district. Agnes Plika.
Once again, for the record, my name is Agnes Black. I'm an attorney with law office of Mark Kupiec and Associates located at 77 West Washington, Chicago. And I am here on behalf of the applicant, Tae Chen, who is the owner of the subject property located at 2017 South Rubel Street. And the applicant is seeking a zoning change from an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to an RM 4.5 residential multi-unit district. And Mr. Chairman, housekeeping matter, the applicant is asking that this application is amended to a type 1 zoning change. I did submit a type 1 narrative and plans to DPD. I wasn't able to confirm with Anna that she received my package. I'm hoping she can confirm it now, but we do ask to proceed as a type 1 application with plans attached to the ordinance.
All right, Anna, you can confirm that, but according to our committee, we do have the amended application that we would need to put in the record as a type 1. Is that correct?
Chairman, yes, that is correct. I did receive the substitute, or not the substitute, amended to be a type 1 this morning, and was notified via email that that was the decision made by the alderman.
All right. Thank you. So Alderman Raboyes moves to amend the application to a type 1 application by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to the motion?
Alderman Lopez.
Any other objections to the motion other than Alderman Lopez? Hearing none, the item is passed to a type 1 application with the note of Alderman Lopez voting in the negative. All right, so the type 1 application is in front of us. And
And
Will you
short-
continue? Mhm.
Yes, please. So ordinarily in an RT4 district, when you have a standard lot, such lot can be improved with a 3-unit building by right. This is a unique property. It is currently vacant, substandard lot with the lot width of only 24 feet and lot depth of only 100 feet. So because of the substandard depth and width, the applicant needs a zoning change to comply with the excuse me, minimum lot area per unit requirements in order to build a new 3-story residential building with 3 dwelling units. The building will still retain an RT4 height of maximum of 38 feet. We have worked with Alderman Thompson to explain this project. We had a large community meeting, very well attended. The community was supportive of this rezoning, and I did submit Alderman's letter of support to the committee. And today we respectfully ask for your support.
The committee on the amended ordinance. I just have a quick question. Agnes, will you define what is the size of the lot, please?
2,400 square feet.
No,
So
but the length and width. It was like a
20. The width is 24 feet, and the length is 100 feet.
okay. And the only reason I asked that is I'm assuming you're still doing a 1-for-1 parking.
That is correct. 3 parking spaces.
Okay,
yes.
that was my question. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? Then can I get a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
Alderman Hopkins, so moves.
Alderman Hopkins makes the motion. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. As
Mr.
amended
Chairman.
to type 1. All right.
Mr. Chairman, a brief point of order.
Yes, Alderman Hopkins on a point of order.
I had lost my connectivity signal for about 30 minutes. I was not present in the meeting. So if I may just inquire during that time, did we deal with the matter at 1138 West Belmont in your ward?
We did.
Okay, and that passed.
It did.
All right. If you'll just allow me just to state my strong support for it on the record. I'm sorry I wasn't present during the meeting, but it's a great program, and I commend you and the community and the family. I'm a regular customer at the store, and I'll miss the store, but it's the right thing to do. So thank you.
I figured you, like Ariel and were customers, and we all know how important it was to the community. So, but unfortunately, as you know, Brian, the independent hardware stores have been losing out for many, many years with the big box. So unfortunately, it's a lot of work for a small business to be competitive. So,
well, since I bought my home, I spent as much money as I could at that store. I tried to help. I'm sorry it wasn't enough.
All right, thank you. Let me see, we're on the top of page 7. Okay, so top of page 7, document number 20732 T1 in the first ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 2021. This address, 1945 North California Avenue, and the change request, B31 Community Shopping District to B23 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. Agnes, are you still with us?
I'm here. Again, for the record, my name is Agnes Black. I'm an attorney with law office of Mark Kupiec and Associates, located at 77 West Washington Street, Chicago. And I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Andrew Maxwell, who is the owner of the subject property located at 1945 North California Avenue. And this is sort of a unique situation. The subject property is currently improved with a non-conforming residential building with 3 dwelling units. The applicant has purchased it back in 2012 as a 3-flat with a zoning certification, also certifying 3 dwelling units. So we are here today just to sort of legalize the existing conditions. Another housekeeping matter, Mr. Chairman, I did submit a substitute type 1 plans and type 1 narrative. We did not have any substantive changes to the plans, but we did have some formatting changes. So that's the reason for the substitute. So I would ask to proceed on the substitute plans and narrative.
All right, Alderman Cardona moves to accept the substantive narrative and plans for the type 1 application by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that?
Alderman Lopez.
Alderman Lopez again is objecting. Any others? Objections? Hearing no other objections, the substantive narrative plans are accepted. And I know you basically said, Agnes, that there wasn't, what is the difference between the substitute and?
This was just, as I was talking to DPD, they asked me to do some formatting changes to just make it a little bit more legible for publishing. So just the formatting changes, no changes to actual plans, to the substance of the plans.
Right. So if my memory is listening to you is correct, the owner has owned the property since 2012. He had
Correct.
a zoning certificate for 3 units.
That's right, at the time of his purchase, yes. And recently, when he applied for a new zoning certification in connection with his pending sale, DPD determined that the prior zoning cert was issued in error. So
Oh, that's new information to me then. That's what I wanted to hear. All right. Well, we're not going to hear from the department on this at this point, unless they want to opine. But I do have Alderman Wagasback on this one.
Yeah,
Scott?
Chairman, just a quick question. One question on this one. Is this one right off the alley, Ms. Pleka?
It is.
Okay, I know which one it is. All right, thank you.
All
That's
right.
all, Chairman.
Alderman Ray Lopez. Raymond?
Thank you, Chairman. Actually, I'd like the department to answer that question because that is something that has been discussed routinely by this body about the certificates of zoning when people buy properties thinking they have a 3-unit, only find out they have a 2-unit. What recourse does the individual have when the
All right,
department?
let's hear from the department on this one. Who would like, Patrick? Patrick, Anna?
Anna Robles here. From what I understand, Chairman, is the zoning certificates are valid for 1 year. I don't know the date that that particular certificate was issued, but over the years, things change. Errors occur when they didn't find previous records. In order to correct the records, we issue a new certificate per ownership.
Let me step back for a second. As Alderman Lopez is concerned, we all witness zoning certs that, well, they don't have a zoning certificate usually for the number that they want. And in this case, they have what they want, but you're saying that a zoning cert only is valid for a year?
Correct.
And does that mean that they have to renew it periodically or when they're ready to sell it?
When they're ready to sell it.
All right. So I have another department. Steve, you want to?
Yes. So there have been, over the years, there's been some errors. We issue more than 20.
Wait a second. Sorry. Stephen, you're telling me the department makes some errors?
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I want to make sure that's on the record there. Okay.
Yes,
All right,
we
go on.
do. There are over 22,000 zoning certs a year that are issued. So of course, there's going to be some errors. The zoning cert is there to protect the buyer because we're making sure that there's a permit and that the unit was lawfully established and meets the building code. So there's not any issues with their electrical or their plumbing or any other things. So there's been, over the years, there's been a lot of illegal units that have been put into these buildings. Now, like I said, we do from time to time make an error, but the vast majority of them, we do not. And we need to correct our errors. And that's what we're here to do today.
All right, good enough. I thought you guys were perfect over there. I'm sorry.
Well,
some of us are
I
all.
want to speak.
All right, is that all? Vice Chair Raboyes?
Well, Chairman, I actually would like to have a follow-up if I may with that.
All right, let's go back to Raymond and then we'll go to Ariel.
So forgive me, Vice Chairman. And as shocking as it is to learn that zoning makes errors, Steve, I just want to say one thing though. In this case, they received something that matched their property. So now you did protect the buyer when they purchased the property, buying 3 flats, saying a 3-unit building, saying it was a 3-unit building. But now having that protection, trying to move forward with it, now they're getting shafted basically. So I'm trying to figure out, and kind of understand when you did it right in the front end, but on the back end, we're having issues. How do we rectify that without having individuals, no offense to Mr. Kupiak or any other lawyer, without having to get legal representation to fix the error that we as a department created for them?
Well, in some cases, they're able to do it through an administrative adjustment. They're able to correct the error through an administrative adjustment, which does not require you to obtain an attorney. It's a simpler process, notifying the alderman and the neighbors, and still getting a permit for the work that is in place. But that is another avenue that can, in some cases, can be used. So, I understand your frustration and residents' frustration, but at the same time, we need to correct our errors when we find them. That's because we're following what the law says. So that's the best explanation I can give you.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Vice Chair Roboyas.
Thank you, Chairman. I understand what Alderman Lopez is saying, but I also I'm very supportive of the way the zoning handles some of these issues, and we're here to help our constituents, and I understand where Alderman Lopez is coming from, but I think the best and the most inexpensive proposition that the property owner may have is to pull some permits, and just get the job done, and less costly, but if nothing else, the work, I work with the zoning folks, and they've been very helpful. I mean, it's not 100% all the time, but they're very helpful. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. All right. Anna, are you going to have the final word on this, or did you?
I just wanted to state that that lot in particular was downsized. It was created at a 2,400 square foot lot. They sold off a portion of the rear yard. So I don't know exactly when that occurred, but things have changed. So this particular project was looked or reviewed thoroughly prior to denying that certificate.
Right. All righty. Okay. Enough said. Do we?
Chairman?
Yes, Agnes.
Mr. Chairman, Agnes Black, again, for the record, attorney for the applicant. Two comments that I just was hoping to clarify. Number one, this particular original zoning certificate was obtained 9 years ago when the applicant purchased the property. We were not involved in the purchase of that property back then. So we were just helping them clarify the situation now. So that's number one. And number two, more importantly, on the record, I do think that the zoning department is perfect, and I have absolutely no critique, and I always find them very, very helpful. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Well, good. I know you're in front of them all the time, so it's nice to praise in public. So we might not feel the same way sometimes about our planning department, but by and large, we're very happy with Steve and the team. But as we learned through some of this, to realize there are 22,000 certificates, on an annual basis. There's going to be a little bit of mix up, but I think they do a great job. So thank you for that. No more comments or questions. If not, I'd like to get a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Alderman Roboyas moves to pass. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed with the substantive narrative and plans. Middle of page 7, document number 20689, T1 in the 27th Ward. Ordinance was referred on April 21st of 21. Common address is 615 North Ogden Avenue. Change request, M12 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District to B25 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. Agnes, you're still up.
Yes, and for the last time today, for the record, my name is Agnes Black. I'm an attorney with law office of Mark Kubik and Associates, and I am here on behalf of the applicant, Urban Edge Group LLC, the contract purchaser of the subject property located at 615 North Ogden Avenue. And this proposed zoning changes from an M1-2 limited manufacturing business park district to a B2-5 neighborhood mixed-use district to allow residential use at the property and to comply with the minimum lot area per unit and the maximum floor area ratio requirements of the ordinance in order to build a new 6-story mixed-use building with commercial unit on the ground floor and 9 dwelling units on the upper floors. We have met with River West Neighbors Community Organization. We also had a large community meeting to present this development. The applicant has incorporated some revisions to the plan suggested by River West, and we received community support. These plans, as presented to the community, have been filed with this application, and it is a type 1 rezoning. The applicant has also been working with CEC, which is Communities Empowered Through Construction, regarding local hiring for this proposed development. And hopefully Alderman Burnett is still on the call today to express his support.
All right. Agnes, thank you. This is in the 27th Ward, Alderman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. As the councilor said, they did meet with the local community organization, did have a community meeting, have committed to hiring people in the community and possibly trying to get some minority contractors on board. This is a small, not a large development, but they're willing to work with the community. So I ask for the committee's support. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Any questions for the applicant or the Alderman?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All right, there is no more questions. Alderman Raboyes moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. Bottom of page 7, document number 20694, T1, in the 32nd Ward. This ordinance was referred on May 26th of 21. Common address is 3015 through 3017 North Lincoln Avenue. And the change request, B12 Neighborhood Shopping District to B15 Neighborhood Shopping District. Warren Silver.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Good
Warren
afternoon.
Silver of Silver Law Office PC with offices at 1700 West Irving Park Road, Chicago. We are here today representing Trim Tab LLC. And its owner, Brian Zucker, is on the call. We're looking for a zoning map amendment to change the district from the B12 to the B15 for the purpose of rehabbing an existing non-conforming building. It's a 3-story building that's being used for light manufacturing warehouse, a spice business on the first floor at grade. And there are 6 dwelling units above. The purpose of the rezoning is to repurpose the building as the corporate headquarters for Human Capital Research Corporation. Human Capital is a consulting business that provides data-driven insights and strategy to executives in educational institutions, mostly colleges and universities. And they're looking to bring 35 jobs in from the suburbs to this area of Lakeview. They plan to expand to as many as 45 jobs over the next few years. The Human Capital would occupy the ground floor, the basement, the second floor, a portion of the third floor, and the remainder of the third floor would be a residence for Mr. Zucker, who is also the chief executive of Human Capital Research Corporation. And so the applicant here is a special entity holding the real estate for Human Capital. Because the building is so much larger than the current zoning district, the need to increase the floor area by about 712 square feet out of a total existing of 20,536. So the total after would be 21,248. It's less than a 3.5% increase. And the purpose of that is to add an elevator penthouse and a stairwell penthouse so that the roof is accessible. There's a small roof deck up there now that's not accessible, and that would be improved as part of the rehab of the building. But because we're increasing ever so slightly the floor area of this non-conforming building, we do need to change the zoning to accommodate that. The site already has 2 parking spaces on it. Only 1 is required for the dwelling unit. None are required for this office use based on the floor area of the office. We have had extensive community process meetings with South Lakeview neighbors, as well as the Lakeview Roscoe Village Chamber of Commerce. They're in support of the project. And I understand that Alderman Wegesbach has sent a letter indicating that he doesn't object to the committee. And he's on the call if he has anything he'd like to add to that. At this point, if anyone has any questions, welcome them.
Thank you, Mr. Silver. Alderman Wegesbach. Scott, do you want to comment on Lincoln Avenue?
Yeah, can you hear me on this one?
Yeah.
A little echoey, but yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, Chairman, sorry about that. This audio is really bad, but just for purposes of planning, we do support this change. Met with many of the neighborhood organizations, and this is a non-conforming building, but it would bring opportunity for a lot more jobs to that strip there that you know pretty well. So I would just ask for my colleagues' favorable consideration on a motion to pass.
Thank you, Alderman. Questions from committee members? Alderman, I know this intersection very well. I'm sorry, I didn't hear, maybe Mr. Silver can answer this, but it went from it's from a B1 to, why was a B13 not applicable? Could you restate that?
So a couple of things. First of all, the building was still too large for a B13. And to allow the existing floor area to be conforming, we needed to go to B15. I also want to add that this is a type 1 rezoning amendment. There were no changes to the narrative or plans that were submitted upon filing of the application, so there's no substitute.
Is that correct? Okay. So on one end, you say that the square footage was not big enough for a 3. Yeah, the existing, okay, exceeds a 3. But also, you're also saying that there's no parking required because it was under that threshold. So correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, at one end, after a certain amount of square footage, maybe because it's a 5, that there would be a requirement if it was a B13, let's say. So I see you talking on both ends of this one. So can the department help me on this one? The fact that there's no parking, but yet and I understand under a 5 it would have no parking, but he was saying that the building is big enough that it needed a 5, but if it was a 3, I mean, what is the threshold for parking on the commercial, except under a 5?
Well, it's based on the size. So I guess, Warren, of the bit.
I just did in the ordinance. Under 1710 207L, office uses in the parking group L, and in the -5, no parking is required for the first 35,000 square feet of office use.
Right.
There would be 1 parking space required for the single dwelling unit.
I get that.
And there are 2 provided.
Chairman, I think you're asking about the exemption, that if they were in the 3.
Right.
So for the first 10,000 square feet, there's an exemption in the -3. That's
Right, that's zero parking, okay.
right, correct. So that by going to the 5, their exemption increases.
To 30-some thousand.
Yes, sir. 35.
Well, again, it's a little technical, but I know that you're bringing 35 employees and maybe more without any parking. And I know parking is at a premium over there. So I'm sure it's vetted through the community with this. And I know it's going to be an exciting project. But, when I look at 5s, it says no parking, but then I understand around, they needed some parking, but in this case with the 5 and the size of the building, there's only 1 parking space required for the residential, right?
Yeah, and let me just add that, the required parking would be the single space, 2 are provided. The building is within the appropriate distance from the long haul bus corridor along Ashland Avenue. It's also in an area that's otherwise very transit rich.
All right, I appreciate it. I think we've exhausted my question on that. So
okay,
I get it. Thanks, Warren. Any other questions? If not, can I get a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum? Alderman Cardona makes that motion. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. Thank you, Warren. Good chatting with you.
Take care.
Top of page 8. Document number 20713, 30th Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 21. Common address is 3339 North Ridgeway Avenue. Change request RS3 residential single unit detached house district to an RM 4.5 residential multi-unit district. I do have an item. I've heard this item will need to be deferred by the attorney. Do I hear a motion to defer this item by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved. Alderman Lopez.
Alderman Ray Lopez makes the motion. Any objections? Hearing none, the item is deferred. Ariel, you get that one, Ariel? We have to defer it based on the attorney.
Got it.
Okay, great. All right, middle of page 8, document number 20724 T1. 27th Ward, ordinance was referred on May 26th of 21. Common address is 2655 West Monroe Street, and the change request.
That was mine. I didn't know that was mine. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ariel, that was the previous one that's deferred by the attorney, Sarah Barnes. All right, moving on. Again, 27th Ward, 2655 West Monroe Street, change request. M12 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District to an RM5 Residential Multi-Unit District. Michael Perlstein.
Good afternoon, Chairman and the committee. Michael Perlstein on behalf of the applicant, Lotus Property Group, LLC. Lotus Property Group also is the owner of the property. We're here asking to change the current zoning of M12 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District to RM5 Residential Multi-Unit District. Purpose to construct a 4-unit, 3-story building to include 3 parking spaces, and we may be seeking zoning relief to reduce the required parking to 3 spaces. Alderman Burnett has been consulted. The community group, Mike Thomas, Garfield Park Community Council is in support. The alderman has indicated support, and we're asking
him. Are you finished with your presentation?
I am.
Okay, great. All right, Alderman Burnett on the 2655 West Monroe.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. As the councilor said, he did meet with the Garfield Park Community Council, upon which after that, I encouraged the Garfield Park Community Council to also have a community meeting, for which we did, although the councilor wasn't there, but the owner was, and there was no one in objection to this proposal. So I asked for the committee support. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. I see a hand up. We have Alderman Hopkins on the Monroe Street application. Brian?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I commend Alderman Burnett. This is a good project, and I'm pleased to offer my support, and I would move approval.
All right, any other questions by committee members? So hearing none, Alderman Hopkins make the motion to move do pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. Now we're going to the bottom of page 8. Document number 20691, 21st Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 21. The common address is 1223 West 87th Street. And the change request, RT4, residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to a B31 community shopping district. Dean Marigus. Dean?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me and see me?
You can, loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of this august group. My name is Dean T. Marigus of the law firm of Marigus & Marigus here at 1 North LaSalle Street. With me, I have the applicant, Reverend Thomas A. Barkley, and his administrative assistant, Athena Jackson. The purpose of this zoning change is to create a new mixed-use community and youth center for public civic group use. The B31 zoning would promote transparency and accessibility. The change to a business district is consistent with the 87th Street B31 zoning. We have gone to the community and we have spoken with Alderman Howard Brookins on April 6th. After deliberations, the Alderman has sent a letter to you, Mr. Chairman, and I confirm that you have received it for your file, that he is in full support of the zoning change from RT4 to B31 for the Progressive Beulah Pentecostal Church Youth Center to be located at 1209-1223 West 87th Street. This will be a major benefit, he states, to the youth and their families in my ward, allowing the youth to develop their education and athletic abilities. This will be a major asset to the community, and if you have any questions, he refers you to call him. This is a very, very, very good project for the community. I've been down in the area, and the Reverend and his church are doing great work, and we open ourselves for any questions.
Thank you, Dean. We do have a letter of support from Alderman Brookins. Any questions from committee members?
Move to pass, Chairman. Alderman Lopez.
No questions. Alderman Ray Lopez moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. Thank you, Dean.
Very much, Mr. Chairman and members.
All right, top of page 9. Document number 20718, 13th Ward. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 21. Common address, 5600 South Pulaski Road, and the change request, B11 Neighborhood Shopping District to B31 Community Shopping District. We have Pedro Cervantes.
Yes, good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you. My name is Pedro Cervantes of Tristan and Cervantes, attorneys at law. I'm here today to present on behalf of the applicant, which is 5600 South Pulaski LLC. The applicant is the owner of the subject property that is located at 5600 South Pulaski Road. The property consists of 2,800 square foot single-story commercial building with approximately 1,500 square foot outdoor patio that continues to be occupied and by a restaurant that is known as El Salaso. The El Salaso was opened 13 years ago in 2007. It's operated by the controlling person of the applicant named Jose Pepe Barajas. He is on the public feed observing. That being said, there was recently fire damage about a year or two ago, and he committed to rebuilding the property and renovating it, which he has done. The applicant is seeking the zoning change to permit his ability to obtain a consumption on premises incidental activity liquor license for use of the El Salazo restaurant. No other further physical modifications to the property are going to be completed. As a note, Mr. Barajas, as many of you may know, is also the operator of La Josie restaurant on Randolph in the West Loop. And besides their great food, they are known for their specialty margaritas and drinks, and he's looking to bring that to the 13th Ward neighborhood. In order to permit the ability to obtain a liquor license as described, the applicant is seeking a change from a B1-1 neighborhood shopping district to a B3-1 community shopping district. The applicant has worked with the local neighbors and Alderman Marty Quinn, and we understand that we have the support of both. We did receive a formal letter of support signed by Alderman Quinn this morning. I emailed it to the email of Mr. Valadez and to Anna Robles, but I'm not sure if you received it. But based on the
Joe,
support,
we have received it, and
okay.
we are aware of Alderman Quinn's support on this restaurant project.
Thank you. Then we would ask that the committee support the passing of the item, and I can answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from committee members? Hearing none, Alderman Ray Lopez moves to pass on the motion by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections from committee? Hearing none, the item is passed. Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Chairman.
luck.
Thank you, committee. Thank you.
All right. Let's see, middle of page 9, document number 20737. In the 12th Ward, ordinance was referred on May 26th of 2021. Common address 1636 through 1640 West 37th Place. And the change request, RS3 residential single unit detached house district to an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district. I would assume we have Nick Fatikas here or Daniel.
It's me again, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I thought we said goodbye to you to Texas. So you told me that was the last one.
Yeah, you know, I was mistaken.
Then we'll turn this one down. Oh, we better not.
That's
Our floor
right.
leader our floor leader. We have a letter of support. We don't want to mess with George. All right, let's proceed on West 37th.
Great. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. One last time, Daniel Box from the law offices of Sam Banks. I'm here today on behalf of the applicant, Stan M. Lazar Trust. The applicant is the owner of the eastern parcel of the subject property located at 1636 West 37th Place. As indicated, the subject property consists of 2 parcels that function together as one zoning lot. Currently, one parcel, the parcel at 1640, is improved with a 2-unit residential building, while the other parcel, the one at 1636, is vacant and unimproved. The applicant is seeking to subdivide the subject zoning lot into 2 separate and independent zoning lots in order to permit the construction of a new single-family home at the vacant parcel. On-site parking for 2 vehicles will be provided at the lot's rear in order to serve the new home. The existing 2-unit building on the improved parcel will remain without change. In order to permit the project, the applicant is seeking a zoning change from an RS3 residential single unit detached house district to an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district. We have worked with the local alderman, Alderman Cardenas, and the local community on this project. I have provided a letter of support to this honorable board. And I'd also like to go ahead and put into the record that we have agreed to downzone the property back to an RS3 after permits have issued for the proposed new single family home. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Daniel. And we do have a letter of support from Alderman Cardenas. Any questions from committee members? Hearing none.
Alderman Cardona,
I was just going to ask, Alderman Cardona makes motion do pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. Thank you. And now we're going to middle of page 10 in the 6th Ward. Document number 20693. Ordinance was referred on May 26th of 21. Common address 555 through 557 East 75th Street. Change request. B11 Neighborhood Shopping District to B31 Community Shopping District. Shawnee Crump.
Hello. Hi, yes. My
Hello.
name is Sinead Crump. Hello.
Could you repeat your name for the record, please?
Sinead Crump.
Shanae, proceed.
Yes, I'm the owner of the property at 555-57 East 75th Street under Affordable Living LLC. I'm seeking a zone change from B11 to B31. I'm seeking to rezone the property to comply with the use standards of zoning ordinance to establish a meeting hall and banquet hall used on the ground floor of the existing building. And
Well,
I'm here for any questions.
Shanae, that's how you pronounce it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Have you met with your local alderman?
Yes, I have.
And that would be Alderman Sawyer, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, hold on a second.
You're on mute, Mr. Chairman.
That was intentional, Walter.
Okay, I was intentionally muted so I could hear from Alderman Sawyer. And yes, he is in support of it. And so that would be on file, his support. Any questions from committee members on this one? No questions. Can I get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So move, Chairman.
Alderman Ray Lopez makes the motion. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. All right. Good luck to you. Hopefully, we're going to see you in the future with an expansion. How about that?
Yes.
All righty. Thank you. Good luck. Bottom of page 10, document number 20692, T1 in the third. Oh, I'm sorry. We did that one already. Thank you, staff. All right. Page 11, top of page 11, document number 20589 in the 4th Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. Let's see, this common address, 920 through 1006 South Michigan Avenue and 1011 through 1015 South Wabash Avenue. The change request. Residential Business Plan Development 1323 to Residential Business Plan Development 1323 as amended. I believe we have Jack George on this one with slides from Planning Commission, I believe, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is John George. I'm an attorney with offices at 71 South Wacker. I'm appearing this morning on behalf of the applicant, 1000 South Equities LLC, in connection with this proposed amendment to Plan Development number 1323. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, before I begin talking about the presentation, I would ask that this matter was before the Chicago Plan Commission on June the 17th, and I would ask that the report of proceedings and testimony and documents that were before the Chicago Plan Commission be incorporated into and be made a part of the proceedings before this body this morning.
All right. So Alderman Cardona moves to incorporate the records from the Plan Commission by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Objections to that motion?
Alderman Lopez.
Any other objections to the motion? Hearing none, the records are recorded with the objection of Alderman Ray Lopez noted. All right, proceed, Mr. George.
On May the 18th, 2016, the Chicago City Council approved Plan Development 1323 to construct in sub-area A 73-story building with 832 feet tall with 506 dwelling units and 486 parking spaces, which was then later reduced to 440 parking spaces. Sub-area B remained the same, which is a property at 1006 South Michigan. That's improved with an existing 8-story building, 102 feet tall. That remains the same. What we're doing with this and what's before you today, we're seeking to amend PD 1323 and to add 232 units to sub-area A and reduce the height by from 832 feet down to 805 feet, and to reduce the parking to 325 spaces, taking advantage of the transit-served location parking reduction with an FAR of 27.94 for sub-area A. We have conducted, the applicant is seeking to take the 0.5 FAR neighborhood bonus which would result in a payment of $407,316. The applicant has agreed. This matter is before in Alderman King's award. The applicant has agreed to an MBE participation goal of 29% for MBE and 6% for WBE. We increased the amount of the requirement for the MBE from 26 to 29. The proposed amendment triggered an additional ARO from 506 to 738. And so we originally paid $502,000 for the original bonus. And now all these additional 23 units that we're going to be providing will be built on site. The construction cost of the project is $430 million, creating 2,379 temporary jobs, 26 permanent jobs. The increase in real estate taxes goes from $150,000 a year to $5 million for meeting the sustainable policy. We met with Alderman King a number of times on this. We had 2 community meetings on this matter in her ward. We also met with the Near South Planning Board, where I made a presentation to them, and they then issued their letter of support. Alderman King testified before the Chicago Plan Commission in support of it. I don't know if she's still on the call, but I hope she is, and she could testify again here today. We think this is a great project. This was designed by Helmut JUN. This was the last thing he did before he died, and we think it's a beautifully designed building, and we think it'd be a tremendous landscape asset to the landscape of our city. I'd like to give special attention and thanks to Heidi Sperry from DPD for all the time and effort that she put in working with us on this project. And I stand ready to, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, to answer any of the questions that you have concerning our project.
I think we have Alderwoman Sophia King on this. I know as a member of Plan Commission, she spoke very highly of it, but I think she wants to say a few words on it today. Alderwoman King.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I appreciate you allowing me to talk about this. And yeah, we obviously just talked about this during the Planning Commission, but I'd love to just for my colleagues' consideration, just say a few words. You know, as I said, this is really an amendment to a PD, and this was approved some years ago as a slightly different plan with condominiums instead of rental units. And so they're seeking an amendment. The community did have some concerns. However, as Mr. George just indicated, we had several community meetings. I believe that they earnestly addressed a lot of the concerns around parking, traffic, construction-related concerns. They also work with the community to make sure that there's affordable housing on site, which I think is really important. As I've continued to say, you know, affordable housing is a responsibility of the entire city and not just a segregated few parts. And so I appreciate the development team looking at putting affordable units on the site directly, especially on Michigan Avenue. I think that says a lot. Also increasing the MBE and WB goals. I appreciate that as well. And given, you know, some of the uncertainty in construction, I appreciate that they're moving forward as well. This is a big project that's going to bring a lot of jobs. And for that reason, Chairman, I am asking for yours and my colleagues' support to move this forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Any questions, comments for the team or the Alderwoman? Well, I do want to congratulate you, Alderwoman Sophia King. I think this was very much praised by members of the Plan Commission. This was, you know, this is enthusiastically supported. My question is, I'm thinking just historically, the landmark district on South Michigan Avenue, where does that, how far south does that go down? Or is this building within that district?
It's within that district, Mr. Chairman, and they amended in 2016 to allow the heights to be between 400 and 900 feet. So ours falls within that district.
Okay. Yep. All righty. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, can I get a motion to move to pass?
Alderman Cardona.
By the same roll call that was used to determine quorum, and that was the Alderman Cardona. And any objections to his motion? All right. Hearing none, this item is passed as revised. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. We appreciate it.
Bottom of page 11 is our next item, and it's number 20195, 32nd Ward. Ordinance was referred on September 18th of 19. Address, common address, 1838 through 1842 North Elston Avenue. Also 1839 through 1843 North, I think, Beasley Court. Change request, M33 Heavy Industry District to B33 Community Shopping District, and then to Residential Plan Development. Katrina McGuire.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Katrina McGuire from Thompson Coburn here on behalf of the applicant. It's nice to see everybody this afternoon. With me today are Jim Jan from Jab Real Estate, as well as Sean O'Gorman from Fitzgerald Associates, who are the project architects. This was a matter that was heard at Plan Commission on June 17th, and we would ask that the record of the proceedings before the Plan Commission be incorporated in today's record.
Moves to incorporate the records from the Plan Commission by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to the motion?
One. Lopez.
Okay. Any other objections? Hearing no other objections, we'll incorporate them with Alderman Lopez's objection. All right. Continue on, Katrina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a 34-unit project that will also provide 3 ARO units on site that will all be accessible units. The site is within the North Branch Corridor Framework Plan area, and accordingly is subject to a $131,000 bonus fee for the FAR bonus that's being sought, as well as an approximately $104,000 conversion fee that is set forth within that framework ordinance. The developer intends to comply with the city's MBWB participation goals. We are available for any questions about the project. We do have our Plan Commission presentation available if you would like to share it, if you would like us to discuss this further. We do have a letter from Alderman Wagsback of no objection, but I believe he is also here today. And with that, I have nothing further unless there's questions.
Katrina, you're right. We do have a letter of no objection from, well, I see his hand up now, so maybe his audio is better. Alderman Wagesbeck, you want to speak on the one on Elston, please?
Hey, Chairman. Kind of moving around here to see if I get better Wi-Fi, but
this position sounds good, actually. So.
Okay, good. I'm closer to your office, actually. So we had this at Plan Commission. As you know, North Branch Works was opposed to it. We did have another letter of objection from a neighboring business, but I think we haven't spoken to them but specifically about some of the plans for parking there. But this was a good discussion at the Plan Commission. They've made significant changes to the project. What's interesting is that right across the street is Lincoln Yards, and that was part of the discussion at the Plan Commission, was that in 2017 this area was changed. I think DPD spoke to it as well, and while it is residential, you know, we are looking at properties across the street that will be providing, there you can see it there, the Lincoln Yards residential. So in terms of density and height, there's no comparison here, and I think the Plan Commission was looking at it favorably in terms of what we were looking for with the affordable housing. So I understand the objections from the groups that I've worked with there, but this fits into what the Plan Commission voted on 4 years ago, and it's a sort of a complex issue, but one that I think garnered the support of the Plan Commission, and this committee, I would just ask for a favorable consideration on a motion to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. And I think what's not on the slide is the the protected manufacturing district and how we amended that a number of years ago, that certainly added residential as a mixed use and kept, I think it was the southern portion of that corridor with heavy manufacturing only. So I think that was pretty instructive. Oh, you got it. Thanks. Okay. So we're in.
I think
we're in
you
the
and I were in
central
those
area, right?
meetings.
So where the red star is where the property is, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Scott, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that you and I were in meetings about 10 or 12 years ago on this area and originally looking at how it was going to change. I don't think we realized that with the Lincoln Yards plan it would change that significantly, but that change in 2017 opened the door for these types of projects. So residential is not banned or prohibited here, and that's, I think, what led to this type of project. So,
right.
Thank you,
Yep.
Chairman.
All right. Any other questions, comments? If not, can I get a motion? Alderman Raboyes makes that motion to move due pass. Oh, I'm sorry. Alderman Hopkins, before we take a vote on that, I didn't see your hand. Brian?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could just ask, what was the source of the slide that showed the Lincoln Yards height for some of the proposed buildings on the sub areas in that plan development?
Katrina?
Sure, Alderman. Those were pulled. Sean O'Gorman's on the call that they prepared the slide, but those were pulled from the approved plan development documents for Lincoln Yards North and South, and it also includes Triangle Square to the north. So those were all the massings of the approved, potential approved developments in Lincoln Yards. The DPD asked us to put our proposed development in the context of what is approved in the area.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. I thought I'd seen every slide that was out there for demonstrating what the plans are in long-term for Lincoln Yards going forward, and I hadn't seen that one yet. So thank you for that clarification. And Mr. Chairman, I would just point out that we constantly hear criticism for our lack of a master plan for development going forward in most community areas in the city of Chicago. And now we have one, at least for the North Branch. You know, it was the result of a very robust and spirited community engagement process. And it's a document that reflects some decisions that were made as part of that planning process. One of them certainly involves the future of this area as it evolves from an industrial area to a mixed use. So it just seems inconsistent to me, on the one hand, to decry a lack of a plan, and then when a plan is ultimately prepared, to object to it going forward when proposals are suggested that are in compliance with that plan. I don't understand it. I don't understand the inconsistency there. And I know that was the focus of some discussion on this particular project, which I think is a good project, and I'm pleased to support it. But I just wanted to point that out going forward as we talk about developing master plans for, you know, much of the city that isn't covered by it. If we're going to do that, then we have to honor it, and we have to stick to it, unless we're going to amend it, which is another process altogether. So I will make the appropriate motion to support this at the time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I think we'll get a motion after we hear from Alderman Ray Lopez.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll just be brief. I'm sure that no matter what Jim Jan has designed, it's going to be beautiful along the river, and look forward to seeing this once it becomes a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. So Alderman Hopkins makes the motion to move due pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the item is passed as revised. All right.
Thank you.
Next, we're top page 12. Again, in the 32nd Ward, item number 20632. The ordinance was referred on February 24th of 2021. Common address is 2101 through 2125 West Lyndale Street, 2200 through 2240 North Hoyne Avenue, 2100 through 2124 West Webster Avenue, and 2201 through 2243 North Hamilton Avenue. And the change request, RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to an institutional residential plan development. Paul Shadle.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, or good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Paul Shadle with the law firm of DLA Piper, along with my colleague Katie Janke Dale here representing the applicant. And with me today are Anthony Chadid with the applicant and Dan Campbell with Space Architects, available to answer any questions. As you noted, this is a request to rezone this property to planned development. The matter was heard and recommended for approval by the Plan Commission on June 17th, and I'd ask that the record of those proceedings be incorporated into this record of this proceeding.
Alderman Marie Hadden moves to incorporate the records from the Plan Commission by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to her motion? Hearing no objections, the records are incorporated. Paul, would you continue?
Sure, and I would just note this is a proposal related to the St. Hedwig Parish campus. We're not proposing any changes to building footprints. The proposed project would simply renovate an existing vacant former rectory building at the southwest corner of the site to contain 23 dwelling units, 3 of which would be affordable. I could share my screen to show you the site plan if any of the members would like to see that. But otherwise, this is a project that we discussed in great detail with Alderman Wagaspak, with the Department of Planning and the Department of Housing, and we would respectfully request this committee's positive recommendation.
Let me just say this. I know I was on Plan Commission. I know Alderman Wagaspak thought it was a great reuse of it. Alderman Wagaspak, do you want to comment on this project?
Sure.
On Hamilton, among other streets?
Sure. So this is an old church rectory / school. I actually had my wedding reception there going to St. Hedwig. So I know, and I've worked in that actual building when I was on the parish committee there. So it is built like an old fallout shelter back in 1909. It's going to be very difficult to do the construction, but I was very happy to see this adaptive reuse, and really happy with the way this has turned out. It was a difficult back and forth with DPD, but I think they did their best to make sure we got the right product, and as well as Mr. Chadid and Mr. Shadle and Katie Jankadale. So for purposes of planning on this and putting in these affordable units, I would ask for a favorable vote from my committee members. Thank you.
Okay. Question, I'm assuming, Scott, the parish is still active. It just...
Yes, it is, and it's interesting because there was just an announcement made about that Renew program for the diocese with 2 other churches. This church will remain as the primary for services, and as you know, there's a school on the other portion of the property, CICS Bucktown, so that will remain viable for the time being as well. But this actual piece of the property of this building was underutilized for many decades, and the church isn't able to sustain it unless we do something else with it. But it did have favorable support from almost all the neighbors and the community group as well.
Great. Well, if my listening is correct, Paul said it was the rectory building.
My mistake, Chairman.
It was a convent.
It was a convent. I made a mistake. Yes.
Okay.
It was a convent.
As a young Catholic boy, I caught that discrepancy there, and that's why I wondered if maybe they're going out of business, so to speak. But
no, my mistake.
Yeah, it was the convent, but it was used partially as a school and additional housing for an occasional visiting priest where we didn't have room in the rectory.
Great. All right. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, can I get a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
Cardona do pass.
Alderman Cardona makes the motion. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, this item is passed as revised. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Staying in the 32nd Ward, top of page 13. Let me see. Document number 20659, T1, 32nd Ward. Ordinance was referred on March 24th of 2021. This is 1628 through 58 West Wolfram Street and 2833 through 45 North Paulina Street, and the change request. M12, Limited Manufacturing Business Park District to an RT4 Residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district. Rolando Acosta. So, Rolando Acosta.
Because I have already heard.
Rolando.
Rolando, you're up on Wolfram, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Rolando Acosta here on behalf of the applicant. I have two matters for you today in the 32nd Ward that are across the street from one another on Wolfram and Paulina, northeast corner and southeast corner of Wolfram and Paulina. The first one is 20659 T1, which is the north side of Wolfram and Paulina, immediately west of the existing. Hello?
No, I continue on. We're still on the 20659 T1.
Yes. So this matter, first of all, I should note, has a substitute ordinance, substitute narrative, and substitute drawings associated with it.
All right. So I'm going to ask Alderman Cardona to accept the substantive narrative and plans for the type 1 application by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the substantive narrative and plans are accepted.
The nature of the substitute, Mr. Chairman, is that we added some property on the north, approximately 10-foot strip that was a remnant, and deleted some property on the east. But the plan itself still remains the same, which is to do 13 single-family homes in what today is manufacturing zoned. The reason for the addition of land on the north is that the alderman had requested that we build an alley along that. Built it to CDOT standards. Whether CDOT will accept it or not is a future question. And the 10 feet accommodates that. So it yields effectively a 16-foot width for an alley and 125-foot lots for the 13 homes that are to be built there. We went through a procedure with the South Lakeview neighbors where they reviewed the proposal and voted favorably to recommend it. And we are happy to answer any questions the committee may have.
All right, questions from the committee members. I know Alderman Wagasback is probably wanting. Scott, you want to speak on this one? I don't know if your audio has come through.
Yeah, if you like, I can just work.
Why don't you talk about both of them?
I can answer questions.
Why don't you talk about both of them, even though that I'll have to take it separately, but since they're across the street from each other.
Right. Essentially, as Rolando said, this is just for purposes of planning, going from old manufacturing to single family. The original plans that we saw were dozens of condos, and that was not acceptable to most of the neighbors. Most of the surrounding area there is single family or some multi unit buildings. But from the neighborhood group, which I think you know pretty well, everybody kind of came around to single family homes there. There's also an issue with overcrowding at the local school there, so most people were looking at that issue as well. Rolando mentioned the 10-foot strip. This is an important thing for us. We've seen some of these properties that face inwards that were built in years past that had private alleys or private streets that led to problems with us having to maintain them and legal issues. So we asked for a public alley to be built there, and we're working with the neighboring property owners to make sure that we set that up properly. So for both of these, I would just say that for purposes of planning, in the 32nd Ward asked for favorable consideration of the two items from the committee members.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions for the applicant or the alderman? Okay, hearing none. Alderman Cardona,
so moved.
Cardona moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum for the, yes, that's right. Pass. Okay, so no objection to that?
Chairman,
Yes, Anna.
Chairman, this is Anna Robles. I just want to confirm it was amended to the substitute ordinance and the ordinance itself. They amended the ordinance.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, so the question before the committee is to pass with the substantive narrative and plans. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right.
I think
And
Andrew.
the substitute ordinance.
And the substitute ordinance. So, okay, substantive narrative plans and the substitute ordinance.
Correct.
Okay. Any objections to that? Hearing none, it's passed with the substantive narrative and plans and amended ordinance. All right, Anna, tell me what I'm doing wrong, please.
Substitute ordinance and substitute narrative and plans.
All right. So we're passed with the substantive narrative and the substitute ordinance. Correct, Anna?
Correct.
All right. Any objections to that? Hearing none, it's passed with the substantive narrative and the substitute ordinance. Oh my God. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, staff, on that one. All right. I'll probably have to do that again on the next one. So let's read in document number 20660 T1 32nd Ward. Ordinance was referred on March 24th of 21. Common address 1649 through 1659 West Wolfram, 2815 through 25 North Paulina Street. The change request. M12 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District to RS3 Residential Single Unit Detached House District. Oh, okay. Rolando, it's a different change request on the.
It is, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon again. Rolando Acosta here on behalf of the applicant. The good news here is that there are no substitutes, so we don't have to worry about that at all. The reason for the difference, this is an existing manufacturing vacant property, zone manufacturing, being rezoned to an RS3 to allow for the construction of 5 single-family homes. The reason for the different zoning district is that this particular block has a pattern of RS3 zoning on it. So the Alderman's office had asked us to consider that, continue that pattern and follow the RS3 guidelines, while the northern parcel is adjacent to a series of RT4 properties. So hence the difference in the two zonings. So the houses on the south would be smaller based on the RS3 designation than the houses on the north. Again, this plan, as described, went before the South Lakeview neighbors. And for the reasons I think the Alderman identified previously, they were favorably disposed and in support of this project.
And obviously the Alderman is supportive of it. Do we have any questions on this application for the attorney or the Alderman? All right, hearing no questions, can I get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum? Alderman Cardona makes that motion. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed.
Thank you.
All right, top page 14 in the 27th Ward, document number 20225. Ordinance was referred on October 16th of 19. Common address is 200 through 218 North Aberdeen, 1100 through 1108 West Lake Street, and 213 through 233 North May Street. Also 1111 through 1125 West Fulton. Let me see, change request, C11 neighborhood commercial district to DX5 downtown mixed use district, and then to a business plan development. Mike Esger.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Michael Esger from the law firm of Acosta Esger on behalf of the applicant, LG Development Group. And as a preliminary matter, this project did receive unanimous approval at the Plan Commission on June 17th. And I would respectfully request that that record
be incorporated into this proceeding.
Alderman Hopkins moves to incorporate the records from the Plan Commission by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that? Hearing none, the records are incorporated. Continue, Mike.
Thank you. In keeping with the theme of the last few minutes, we also on this one we updated the application, which also includes a substitute ordinance, and revised the zoning district as well as the address and boundary. And so I would request that substitute ordinance and updated package be incorporated into the record.
All right, Anna, have you received the substitute in the package? Revised?
Yes, I got that from the Plan Commission group, and yes, the substitute ordinance is in hand.
All right, so Alderman Raboyes moves to accept the substitute by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections? Hearing no objections, that substitute is in front of us. Okay, Mike.
Thank you. And so the project consists of a 414 unit residential apartment building with 102 parking spaces. It's a project that has been reviewed extensively by the community. It has community support from the two delegate agencies of the city of Chicago, West Loop Community Organization, as well as the West Central Association. It includes 20% affordable on-site, as well as LG Development Group's commitment to work with the Department of Housing to figure out ways to try to achieve even more affordable on-site with some city programs that are being worked through with LG and the department. The substitute ordinance amended the address, as you can see in red outlined here, to exclude the Fulton Street properties. So there's one sub area, no sub areas, just one PD with the boundary shown in red. The next slide will show, if we can go to the next slide, the existing Arthur Harris building, which is a historic building in the district, in the historic district, that the project and the team is preserving. And that was approved at the Historic Preservation Permit Review Committee at the beginning of this month, prior to Plan Commission. The next slide will show the proposed project that building restored as approved by PRC. And this is the Aberdeen frontage of the property. The next slide shows the looking northeast from the Lake and May Street sides of the property. The next slide, this shows the May Street side of the property. You can sort of see what the existing conditions are in the area on the right, and on the left is the proposed new project. The next slide, please. And finally, this shows the new building from the Aberdeen frontage looking southwest, and shows it in some context with other approved buildings in the background, as well as that preserved Arthur Harris building down on Aberdeen Street. So with that, I believe that Alderman Burnett is available, and I am as well, for any questions or comments.
All right, Alderman Burnett. Walter, are you up there on Aberdeen?
I apologize. The mailman just came to the door. Thank you very much. As the councilor may have told you, we met with several community organizations. We did have a community meeting. The majority of the folks in the community was in support of this. This development has gone through a couple of renditions. Department of Planning worked with them on the design. Turned out to be a much better project. I support this. The community supported. We ask for the committee support.
All right. Questions for the alderman or the applicants? All right. Hearing.
Move to pass, Chairman.
Yeah, okay. No other questions? By committee members, do I hear a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
Move to pass, Chairman.
That's made by Alderman Wagasback. Any objections? So the item is passed as what? As revised and substituted. All right, so now we're on our last item, and I believe, I'm going to read it in the record, but I believe it's going to be deferred. All right, and that item is 20672, 27th Ward. Ordinance was referred on April 21st of 21. Common address, 1132 through 57 West Lake Street, 146 through 208 North May Street, Evenside, 1132 through 40 West Randolph Street, Evenside, and 169 through 209 North Racine Avenue on the odd side. Change request, C12, C11, C13. So we got C1, C2, C3, neighborhood commercial districts, all to DX5, downtown mixed use district, and then to a residential plan development. So this is being deferred by the attorney. All right.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Michael Esger on behalf of the applicant, LG Development Group, and we respectfully request that it be deferred.
Okay, so again, deferred by the applicant. Can I get a motion to defer this item by the roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Alderman Cardona.
Vice Chair Raboyes moves to defer this item. Any objections? None. The item is deferred.
Mr. Chairman, before you adjourn, I just want to say on that last item before this one, this would be one of the few items over in the food market.
He's covering his microphone.
I can't hear you, Walter.
You can't hear me?
Now we can. Now.
Okay.
So you're talking about the item on Aberdeen, is that correct?
Yeah, the item on Aberdeen is, we lifted to allow residential in that area. And part of that ordinance says that we would encourage developers to do 30% affordable. They committed to 20 and they're going to be working with the Department of Housing on doing 30% affordable. So I just wanted to point that out.
All righty. Okay, sir. Thank you very much. And again, that was on Aberdeen, and we're deferring the one on Racine and Lake. And we've got the motion, so we're done with our business. Alderman Burnett makes a motion to adjourn by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned.